I wasn't able to get in from the, so I had to go in a different way.
Yeah, no problem.
Wow.
Long time no see.
Yeah, yeah.
You're,
Well,
you're actually looking
I,
fairly healthy.
I didn't go. I didn't go to the Wednesday meeting.
Yeah.
Not ready.
Can
Hey,
you see me, Dave? Dave, Dave. Earth to Dave.
I think he's having audio problems.
Oh, okay. Hey, Lee, I got that Docker migration thing working in a single Docker stack. So it's self-contained now.
Huh. Okay.
So you won't have any problems because you won't have to have anything on your system except for Docker.
Well, except I still got to hook it to the load balancer.
No, no,
But
no, 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 no. This is a separate Docker Compose stack, separate from the production system.
okay.
All it does is run the migrations.
Oh, gotcha. So we can drop the migration in first and let it generate the database and then start.
Oh my God.
Hey there, Stan.
Stan's
Echo
here.
going on.
I think I'll mute Stan for a bit. Hey, Stan, we think we got bad feedback coming from you, so you're muted right now.
Yeah, that's basically right. Yeah, you put in legacy.sql, you get out current.sql.
Perfect.
So I'm still tweaking it slightly. So probably tomorrow I'll have it.
Okay. Yeah. Like I say, no rush. I won't need it till first part of September.
Okay.
This is Stan. Can anybody hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you.
5x5,
Whoa.
Stan. No feedback or anything now.
Whoa!
Yeah, we finally figured it out.
No,
We've just gotten less bad. Okay.
it's called good luck. It's nothing else but good luck. It's certainly not competence or intelligence or experience or knowledge or skill. I'm starting to run out of words here.
Yeah, crack open a thesaurus. You know, they
Yeah.
talk about imposter syndrome in technical fields. So,
Really?
hey, you just have to act like you know what you're doing.
Baffle them with bullshit.
Doesn't everybody? Doesn't everybody?
If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, then baffle them with bullshit.
There you go.
That is so true.
Oh, it's like what's that website? Not disinformation. This something or other. Anyway, it's got a poster, shows all these sharp pencils, and in the one end there's one that's kind of dull. It says, "You don't do anything, you look sharp,"
Yeah.
or something to that effect. And
see, that's why I don't shave. So I look like I do stuff.
Oh, damn, I forgot to shave this morning. Oh, my. After 22 years in the Army, I forgot to shave. Oh, no.
I haven't shaved my chin since 1977.
Yeah.
Wow.
I haven't owned a razor since then either.
You haven't missed anything. Those things are expensive.
See, that's why you go with like the 1950s style safety razors. Get a pack of 500 blades for $10.
Hell, back in the 70s, I had a Norelco. Worked pretty good. And I threw it away.
I had
Never
one.
knew that.
I had one at one time too, but it gave me ingrown hair, so I had to stop using it. Never liked it, really.
When I was in the Navy, they gave you the straight razor, a toothbrush, and a bar of soap. That's it.
They give you anything to sharpen that straight razor with?
Didn't you just do it off the side of the ship?
Well, yeah, pretty much. So there's a lot of metal around, so you could just, just on the gun cannon or something. No, I wasn't on a ship for the first 5.5 years I was in. No, sorry, 4.5 years I was in the Navy. I never even seen a ship. I didn't even know what one looked like, other than what you saw in the picture or whatever.
Yeah. Reportedly, they float.
Yep, they do. They do that when if they don't have any holes in them. That's the important part. You always wonder, like, how a 700-ton battleship, right, made out of metal, can float in the ocean. That just amazes me.
See, the trick is not to think about it.
Yeah.
As soon as you think about it, you realize it's impossible, and the whole thing collapses.
Right, right.
What was amazing was those concrete piers that they built in World War II for D-Day.
Yeah,
Those things floated.
yeah. I met this girl one time at she was a waitress at this restaurant, and she was just, getting like work, money from work so that she'd go to college. And she was in an engineering class, and she was telling me that their final assignment was to build a concrete canoe.
Yeah.
And that was their engineering assignment. So if it floated, they passed.
Yeah, that was the class project at UMR when in the 70s when I was there.
Oh, really? Okay.
And all they had to paddle across a pond.
Right.
It
Okay.
didn't had to do more than float.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think they had to be able to get in it and stuff. Yeah, yeah. I think that's what she was saying.
You mean you couldn't just build a rock and turn that in? What is this? And was it reinforced concrete or what?
I don't know anything about it. I mean, I told you everything I know about it. I just thought it was amazing, concrete in a canoe.
Yeah, I'm not sure which department, but again, my college, that was an engineer thing to do.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, we had, I guess one of the previous years, just in the hallway in the basement to inspire people, I guess.
Oh, okay.
I've got to remember to keep muting myself or it'll get real colorful here.
I mean, that's half the reason why I come, to see all the color, hear it.
Yeah, well, I was able to censor Gary's entrance from last week. Did anybody look at that? Did you look at it? About 11 minutes into the recording.
No, I was there when it happened live.
Well, so you know what he was saying. Sounded like me.
So what'd you use to edit MP4, Stan? I may need to do some of that myself.
A thing called Shotcut.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
I
a
didn't
little.
realize that was that powerful.
It's something relatively new. I think. Let me double check. I think it's Shotcut. Yeah, Shotcut. And it's come a long way since the last time I looked at it a couple years ago. And but I had to go to YouTube and pull down about 7 different videos before I could learn enough about it to make the thing work. And It's what I used to clean up Scott's presentation from what was that, March, whatever it was. He had purposely tried not to show any stuff, but some of the stuff just kind of jumped around on him and showed some passwords of his stuff. But he successfully changed all those passwords. But I thought it better that we kind of blur that out rather than look like we were going to let those leak out.
Yeah,
And
I'm curious to know what his opinion of Agile Bit's new policy is. You can't just buy it anymore.
uh,
So yeah,
is
you have to rent it by the month.
oh, that's probably pisses him off real good because he wrote a book for them, and he got all the rights to it, and was able to have the book he wrote as created under one of those Creative Commons licenses,
Right.
and you can actually go up and download what he wrote from somewhere.
Well,
I
I
forget what it
think
was.
the existing users are grandfathered in, but I don't think you get any updates past a certain point, right?
Yeah.
Other than security fixes and stuff like that. But if you are a brand new user, it's a subscription model, from what I understand. So they were
Well,
talking about it on Twit TV.
yeah. The, I never paid that much attention to, and I kind of assumed that was the kind of stuff that was going on. A lot of that stuff has been going on in the last 5 years. The lawyers and the CEOs all get together and say, how can we subvert the open source stuff and take it over and monetize it? And there's a couple examples out there that,
Well,
well,
yeah,
essentially,
one password is not open source though. It's proprietary software.
that's true. That's true. I'm talking about the what's the sound recording stuff
Yeah.
that Scott did. I can't even remember what it starts with an A. That's
Audacity. Yeah. That's a
yeah.
different. Yeah, that's a completely.
He
That's
wrote
a
the
similar but different issue. Yeah.
yeah.
I think it got bought by some company or something.
How in the hell can you buy an open source project? You know.
Well, you can buy the company. You can't change the license on the software, though.
Right. But then what you do is you shoot all the engineers, and then nobody fixes it anymore, and the old stuff dies. So
a lot of companies are making big money taking the open source software and providing support, and like Odoo is open source.
Yeah.
People make plugins for it and sell you a plugin for the open source product, or Odoo has a big cloud service where they'll host it for you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to make money off open source software.
Oh yeah, I agree, but this to deal with.
Sometimes they're evil bastards.
What do you mean sometimes? Take for example, TeamViewer. I mean, I'm sure that behind the scenes they're doing all the stuff that Gitso is doing, and Gitso was going to go away because nobody's supporting it anymore. Nobody's maintaining it.
To a TeamViewer.
Does the same kind of thing, only it's one-on-one instead of one to them and from them to the other person.
Well, Gitso is just a front end for VNC, though.
Yeah. Well, what the hell do you think TeamViewer does?
It's an independent library that they developed. It doesn't use any open source software that I know.
Well, maybe it doesn't. I don't care. It's proprietary. You can't look at it. So how the hell do you know?
You don't.
That's right. But behind the curtain, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Well, but in today's marketplace, most of the fancy stuff is GPL3.
Yeah.
Which means you can't use it in a commercial product without attribution.
Yeah. GPL number 3. Yeah, I agree with you. But they're not all like that. And if you get a really good thing like I think Gitso is an example. There's nobody maintaining it. And you were saying it wasn't in the repository for SUSE.
Right.
Well, it's still in the repository for Linux Mint, which comes from Debian, I guess. I'm pretty sure it is, because I had a month and a half ago or so, John Steinmeier had him use a live CD and then had him download Gitso and then install it into the live session, and then I was able to have him put in my IP number, and I connected in, and we did a bunch of stuff. Went through and mounted some of his stuff on his hard drive, and mount also his external USB drive, and was able to do a time shift restore from the command line. And so that was great. But the problem is, at some point it's going to wait.
By the way, Stan, Gitso is an Ubuntu 18.04 repository, so probably in Linux Mint and Debian.
Well, Linux Mint is up to 20.2 now.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it's in the repository as of 18.04.
Yeah, well, I know it was for sure. But the thing is, I'm thinking now that there's another example of something that has been dropped out of the repositories. This thing called FSLint. FSLint, Foxtrot, Sierra, Lima, India, November, Tango. And what that's used for is it finds your duplicate files on your system and allows you to eliminate duplications, among other things. And there's one or two other similar things that are being done right now but they're different, and they're not as good as far as I'm concerned. A lot of the new stuff is new is not necessarily improved, But one of the not repository. One of the guys that I've recently found on YouTube is a guy named, what the hell is it? He goes by the DT, DistroTube is his channel on YouTube. He used to do simply distro reviews, and he just done another thing. And about a year ago, he did a thing, or it wasn't even quite a year ago. He did a thing about FSLint. He said the best thing since for finding duplicates or whatever. And it wasn't hardly a month after he did that I found that video he did. I went and looked for it, and it wasn't there. It's no longer in any of the current repositories that I could tell. However, I did find after a search on search engines, I found a archive and pulled down about 4 or 5 files, and I was able to install it. And I installed it on my brother's laptop so that he could go through and eliminate a lot of duplicates. And I've got it on my systems, but it's no longer being supported, and it's at the point where they've dropped it out of the distros.
Back to the glory days of installing, compiling, and patching it yourself.
Yeah, no kidding. As far as that goes, I use Xman for notes, and that thing is out of the old. That's one of the old original X applications. And since that came out, at one point, they were even Linux Mint was using a some kind of notes thing done by I forget his name. I'm no good with names. Gasira? I don't know. Anyway, he did a lot of stuff to convert Windows .NET based stuff so that it would run under Linux. And
Oh,
he
you're
was
talking about Miguel de Icaza.
that's the one, yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you can remember names. I sure can't. Miguel de Icaza.
Yes, he did.
And
He did Mono, and then it became
I don't know, that was
Xamarin.
it, yeah.
and anyway, I didn't like it. I went back and started using X-Man. I'm still using X-Man, and as near as I can tell, it's in the BSD utilities. It's in and I hope it's still there with the Debian 11. I downloaded Debian 11 yesterday. I have not yet tested it out to see if those X utilities are still there. They probably are, but they're currently in the repositories for Linux Mint 20.2, so they must, they're in the Ubuntu stuff. But it's only a matter of time before that stuff probably disappears too. I don't know, but I guess I'm going to have to learn to code some JavaScript or Python. I think I need to learn Python. Uh, I used to do a lot of C code patching. I never really learned C very well, but I was able to patch stuff like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, what's this patch do? Stuff.
Well, yeah, and it's amazing what you can do with an hex editor, right?
So I do have time is 6:30, so I think it's about time we start the meeting officially.
Wait a minute. Just wait a minute.
Let us know when you're recording.
Okay, let's see if I can find all these funny buttons here. Button. Who's got the button? Let's see. Oh, I'm already recording with Anonymous Coward. Let's turn on the recording with. Well, I'm not a co-host, so I can't turn the recording on. La la la.
Oh.
That was a hint.
Hang on, I got so much inscrutable texture on the screen. I got to find you. Hint, James. Haven't you? No.
I can't do that.
Yeah, you can. Your co-host. Go down to the bottom. There should be a button that says recording.
I can hit record. I was looking to try and make you the
Control plus. Too. Control plus is all you need.
Dan Rutgert is the co-host now.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the St. Louis Linux Users Group meeting for August 19th, 2021. We're here today with a sort of a different from our usual fare. We're having a roundtable discussion about primarily TCP IP, DNS, all the fun things that make the internet go, and any questions anyone has on any subject. We may or may not be able to answer those questions. Just fair warning, but we'll try and field them. But before we start with that, just a couple things of historical note. So in next Sunday...
How about something readable, James?
You want it a bit bigger? How's that?
Keep going. Yeah, that's usable. Thank you. Hey, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah, so Sunday, August 22nd, the first users group ever is founded. So obviously we're part of a long and storied tradition here. But following a symposium in Los Angeles, a group of representatives got together and founded Share in order to share stuff between computers. What a novel idea. And then the Sunday after that, in 1969, the very first net was constructed. Not the internet, not ARPANET, just net. Apparently IMP, short for Interface Message Protocol, from UCLA.
Wow.
All right, so in the discuss mailing list this week, we apparently had a lot of good discussion going on. I think one of them was Spam Assassin for your emails boxes. Does anyone want or have any topics they want to start off with?
All of it's beyond me, says Stan.
Yeah, isn't the internet just a series of pipes?
Yeah, the more pipes you have, the more junk you get through, right?
Yeah.
I
don't
thought it
even
was
need larger
tubes.
pipes.
I thought it was
Eh.
tubes.
It's a giant link of random toll roads.
Before we get going, has anybody got anything they'd like to brag about or complain about?
Yeah, but nobody
Anybody?
wants to hear it.
Hey, say it first, then we'll decide to judge you.
That's all right.
I got something to brag about.
All right. Go ahead, Lee.
I shared a screen.
Oh, wow.
Is that a drone?
Moly.
Sure is.
It looks like the one they had out of my place.
Could be, but it's not spreading the seed. I think yours were doing fungicide, right?
Yeah, my guys, the guys out here were doing fungicide on the corn. It was so wet earlier in the year that, I guess fungus was going to be. Hey, that's an interesting way to build a platform in a dump truck there. A couple of round bales.
Yep. Put you about 10 feet up in the air. And guess who's sitting in top with a safety vest and the safari hat?
That looks like you.
Sure does.
Are you flying the thing?
Yep. Got the RC there in my lap.
What is the advantage to being up above the ground like you are there?
Because I can see over the corn and I can see the drone.
Oh, get over the corn. Okay.
Yeah,
the
the corn-
corn's close to 7.
Yeah, the rules head high by July.
And it's well over head high now.
Oh,
Used
yeah.
to be knee high back when corn grew slower.
So why did you launch from a cornfield instead of a wheat field? A grass field?
Because we're applying seed in the cornfield.
And the thing that I didn't realize, they put, every time they load the hopper, they toss in a new battery. And these batteries are about the size of a car battery. And they don't last long when that thing's carrying that kind of a load.
True. We plan on about 25 minutes. And this particular drone has 6 batteries plug in all over on the periphery.
Oh, really? Now this one, they had just, they carried one that looked like a 5-gallon tank of fungicide and a battery of about the same size. Now, the battery was smaller, but it weighed 25, 30 pounds.
Yeah, well, if you can figure out who was doing it, I'd appreciate it if you send it to me.
So are you
Yeah, I'm sure I can.
reseeding? You're flying over tall corn, planting short corn, or what?
No, planting a cover crop. Cover crop means when they harvest the corn, the crop that you planted a couple months before that will start growing in earnest because it's already rooted. And then a month later, you've got a cover crop for cattle. You turn the cattle in there and they eat the turnips and radishes all winter, as well as giving you good aeration of the field with their hooves.
Right.
So
Then you get the mycorrhizae and rhizomal bacteria to grow right.
Yep.
So
Anyway,
you don't need to plow. The cover crop just falls on the top of the dirt and.
Yeah. Well, the dirt is the seed will survive until the next rain, and as soon as it rains, it will get at least lightly incorporated in the soil. It'll start to sprout, and in a couple months, when they harvest the corn, you'll have radishes and the other cover crops already growing to retain the soil after you harvest the corn, which isn't as big a problem as it used to be because you're not even plowing the field.
Now, there's a couple of guys out here that still disc before they no-till the corn, and I think that's a mistake. I'm going to talk to them about that on my property, because I can see the ground going down due to the erosion. You just got to stop that disking. You know,
Yep.
nobody plows anymore, but you know, smart money is you don't disc, you don't do anything. The no-till planter will run right through whatever is there. It's heavy enough. It's designed to cut right through whatever's out there. They usually come through and round up it, and then a couple of weeks later they plant it. And the thing is, when you plant that secondary cover crop, it has no competition down at the bottom of that corn. There's no weeds down there to bother it. The birds don't see, the birds can't get at it or don't get it, whatever.
And when you harvest the corn, you leave a 10 or 12-inch stalk so that you don't cut the tops off the radishes.
Yeah.
Keep a little residue anyhow to keep erosion down.
I'm sorry, I missed that last comment.
Said you need to keep the residue in the ground anyhow to keep the erosion down. So you don't cut them all the way down anymore. Besides, you're planting corn really dense nowadays anyhow.
Oh yeah. We got double or triple the population we did when we were doing it when I was a kid.
Anyway, somebody else chime in.
Where's my phone? Speaking of the
So
devil.
I can always find something to complain about.
We got
On the recommendation of either this group or last week's group, I decided to give OpenSUSE a try. And I picked the default load or whatever, which ended up being a GNOME desktop, which is completely unusable.
Oh no.
Once you get your application launched, there's no way to minimize it. There is no minimize button on the border decoration on the window manager.
That's because you use shortcut keys, Stanford. Need to watch some YouTube videos.
I think that's GNOME default. Like I know Pop OS, they put it back, or was it the maximize button they got rid of upstream?
Yeah, I mean, you can double click on the title bar and it'll roller shade, it'll window shade down to a single bar and open back up. And there is a maximize button there that'll take over the whole screen and shrink back to less than maximized. What happened to the minimize button?
Why would you want to minimize it?
To clutter it, to get rid of it, to get to the window that's hiding behind it.
Why do you have a window hiding behind it? That's what multiple
You tell
workspaces
me
are
why
for.
those pop-ups don't pop to the front and are hiding behind it.
Then don't maximize them. I think we have a question of an ID10T between a keyboard and the brain.
I know, it's like
No
I've
matter-
got a couple. I mean, I'm constantly opening and minimizing windows.
Why are you
know?
minimizing? You've got a workspace, you put the 4 windows for that subject, you go to another workspace, you put your windows there, you go to another workspace, you configure that. I usually run with 6 or 7 or 8.
I have a very small monitor on my laptop, so there's only room for one window.
No, you're missing the point.
You're missing the point. Workspace, not window. A
Yeah.
physical window is your monitor. Your workspace is the logical grouping of windows in an individual desktop.
Yeah, see, I've got 8 desktops open on this machine right now. And I'm on desktop 1. And if I click on desktop 2, both screens go to a different subject matter completely.
No, I understand the concept of desktops, but why do I need different desktops? I just have a bunch of windows and they're all minimized except the one that I'm working in.
Because you don't understand the concepts of multiple desktops. A, you don't have maximized windows. B, you have the windows you want to use for a particular work project on a single workspace / desktop, whatever you call it. And if you want to jump over to your other work, you jump over to another workspace.
It's easy to open windows and then they just become another window and another window. with workspaces, they kind of have to be defined at login, don't they?
No,
No.
No.
usually they're dynamic. Whenever you drop something down on a workspace, it creates another blank one below it.
So, for instance,
It's just a
Stanford,
missing feature. I mean, it's a button that's supposed to
Yeah.
be there, it's not there.
it should be there, but with the workspaces, it is fairly easy to open up something new and then go, "Help, let's go to a new place and open up a terminal here or something else."
Hey, James, hit your Windows key. Does that put the thumbnails up?
No, it
Okay.
opens a launcher.
Okay.
You want the workspaces?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, GNOME should put it back, but it's a little harsh to say it's unusable.
Well, that's because of Stanford. That's Stanford's opinion.
It's just a different
JDE
workflow.
desktop and the XFCE desktop for SUSE work just fine.
True.
So it's not a SUSE complaint. It's a GNOME, what, 4 or 3?
Three.
I think they're running 4 in Tumbleweed. It hasn't appeared in Leap yet.
And the launcher is kind of annoying too. I mean, you know, call it a start button or a launcher button or whatever you want. You know, you click on that button and it shows you now, do you want apps or system or utilities or whatever, and then you click on that and it says, okay, here's all this. But
No. You hit the Windows key and you start typing what you want.
I don't want to type. I want to use the mouse.
Well, you type the first couple characters and then you use the mouse.
I want to use the mouse.
Well, if
Stanford, there's your problem.
Yeah.
Take that mouse and throw it away.
In the mid 80s.
Stanford, if you want to use a work methodology from the 1980s, that's fine. Just don't complain about it.
Hey, no. Back in the 1980s, they still had the terminal and command line. People were still trying to get rid of it.
Well, I had a GUI. It was called Gem.
Yeah.
I remember Gem. Yeah.
It's a research.
Jumping back, James, what key did you hit when Lee said get the windows up?
Oh, I've got a System 76 laptop, so yeah, it was the Windows key or the Meta key or whatever they want to call it.
Well, the Windows, yeah, on mine, the Windows key on SUSE pops up the search bar, and it all already has Firefox and Writer and whatnot down there.
Oh, those are your favorites.
It's likely that each distro has a whole different set of keystrokes that you can configure to do different things.
Yeah,
I know with my Linux Mint, I can have like 8 or 10 windows, virtual, what do you call them? And I've got a keystroke, Alt 1, Alt F2, Alt 5, whatever, to go directly to whichever one I want to jump to.
If you want to get really fancy, Pop! OS will let you have a dock at the bottom and set up a tiling Windows mode. So you don't even have to worry about arranging the windows yourself.
Stanford, here's where you set your shortcuts. Click on the power button top right, then the gear, and then type short. And go into keyboard shortcuts. Here's how you define the keys to do what you want to do. Like
you don't even need the mouse.
Yeah. Do you know if there's a text file you can set that up in, or is it only through that one menu? You have to.
No, there's a backup text file somewhere. I don't know what it is, but how did you get this display up, Lee?
Click the power button on the top right, then the gear on the bottom left of the pop-up, and that's settings.
Wait a minute. I don't have a power button. What do you mean power button?
Top right.
Steve, are you on Chrome?
No, I'm on Brave.
No. What kind of laptop are you on?
Oh God, I'm not on a laptop. I hate laptops.
You on a Chrome? Are you on a Chromebook? Are you on a desktop? What do you want?
No, I'm on an Ubuntu 18.04 desktop with 2 screens. I almost can't bear to use any computer with one screen anymore.
Okay, which screen are you looking at? Because the bar isn't the same on both. You have to look at the primary one
Let me
to
go
get
to
the
one
options.
that doesn't have, oh, wait a minute. What I've done is I've got X11 VNC running, and I am, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you start talking about VNC, and I'm not sure that all the shortcuts are going to be sent to the remote machine, whereas the mouse click will.
Let's see. Lee, I just don't understand what you mean by the power button.
Okay, where do you see your login name? On GNOME, on the top right, there's a down arrow, a power button, and a speaker symbol. You click up there, you get the system menu, I call it. There's another name for it. It has a volume slider, your microphone slider, your login identity, and a series of buttons on the bottom. One of them is the power button. You click that to shut down. On the other end of that scheme, in GNOME at least, is a gear. You hit the gear, it takes you to settings, which is what I'm sharing here.
Okay, I'm looking. I've got OpenSUSE up here.
What version?
15.3.
Hang on a second. Let me share my desktop and see if I can. Now, do you see a basic black screen here?
Wait a minute. Well, it looks like a desktop.
Basic black.
Oh, that button up there. Yeah, I don't have that button on my SUSE. Let me look at the original screen.
Didn't you just say you were on Ubuntu though?
Well, I've got an Ubuntu desktop.
Oh, but you're trying the SUSE on a different machine.
Yeah, got this SUSE on a different machine.
Well, yeah.
So they're all the same. They're all different, folks. Pay attention.
Lee, I see what you mean by the gear. What do the two words activities and places in the upper left-hand corner mean? Are activities and gear not the same thing?
No, gear is settings.
Okay.
Gear is
settings.
Is the settings I'm showing you here. And if you want to type, so basically the whole theory in GNOME is you go somewhere and you search. I type SHO for keyboard shortcuts. And there's your keyboard shortcuts. That's the setting when we're looking at it. Places I put on the desktop because that's what I use to navigate.
Yeah, it's a shortcut to a bunch of file manager links.
Right. And I don't use activities. I have no reason for it. I hit the Windows key.
Brings up what, like a touchpad display, right? Like a phone display.
It brings this up. What we're looking at right now.
No, the Windows key brings this up. And
if you click on activities,
here's your favorites on the left. If you want to program like GIMP, I type GIMP or GI for GIMP, and click on the GIMP icon. It's a hell of a lot faster than pawing through. In fact.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't. I've never used a menu. No, I don't use it. I've never had a need for it.
Yeah, the difference, and I appreciate both interfaces. It's a battle between an experienced and a newbie. Of an experienced guy, yeah, that's what activities brings up all those icons, right?
Well, but I hit the show all applications down here at the bottom of your favorites.
Okay, won't activities bring up the same thing?
No. Activities just brings up the search bar.
The search bar, okay.
But I don't know if that's the way I've got configured it. I've never used it any other way.
I think the activities brought up the all applications on the one I test drove.
Yeah, I think that
it's a difference. If an experienced guy knows where he wants to go and can just start typing, an inexperienced guy needs a menu list to pick from.
Well, not really. You type, if you want to do an image editor, you type image and shows you everything that deals with images. If you want a word processor, you type Word and you get LibreOffice and a dictionary.
Lee, that's assuming the new person knows those kinds of words. Most of the new people, they know browser and email.
Okay, that's here on your left on a favorite.
No, they know Edge and Facebook.
Yeah, Edge and Facebook. What would you if you type in file? Do you get all the different file managers? Yeah,
Just
there's
the
file.
one.
Everything that deals with a file.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lee,
Look,
one
would
of
you
the
type in
differences
shell,
here,
or if you wanted a terminal, would you use the word shell or would you use the word terminal?
Terminal, unless you
Or
installed a
command,
different one.
or command
Right here.
line.
Right here.
Yeah.
My
But
second
what if I
favorite
typed
shortcut.
in command line?
Yeah,
What?
but I
Oh, command line is Alt F2.
don't think the terminal's a favorite by default. I think you have to go searching for it and then add it as a favorite.
It is on SUSE.
Okay, Ubuntu
Hey,
is
Lee.
different.
there is one difference here. When I loaded this version of SUSE, I used KDE desktop instead of GNOME. So a lot of it looks just different. Like if I
They're
hit,
all they're all the same. They're all different.
yeah, that's true. If I hit the window, I get, it's this whole series of menus, favorites, applications, yada yada.
So on the window you got up, the keyboard shortcuts window, there's an X for kill. Where's the maximize button? Oh, the maximize button is what, just double clicking on the title bar?
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Double click. Double click.
Yeah. Okay, so there's no minimize, and the maximize is double click.
And normalize a maximize is double click again.
It's double click again, yeah.
Which is different than F11. Well, some apps respond to F11 like a browser. Because if you have maximize with F11, let's open a browser window here.
There's only normalize and maximize. There's not even window shade.
Right. Well, with Windows Shades, the desktop function, if you double click maximize, it maximizes the entire window. If you maximize with F11, it throws away everything on top. You just get the main
button. Right.
In Linux Mint,
full screen.
Yeah, right. F11 is full screen, correct. That's not maximized.
Yeah.
in Linux Mint, you can make the choice of any of those, your choice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can do it here too, but I've never configured it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming through X11 VNC, the function keys do work a little bit different. So we'll leave that out of the discussion.
I don't understand why you're using VNC.
Now you guys, like I said, here you are, and I want to get to my desktop behind all those windows where I can see all the icons that I've got hiding on my desktop.
Well, if you're using a KDE on SUSE, then you go down to the lower right-hand corner and there's a little square box. I guess and if you hover over it, it says Show Desktop. You click on it, all the windows go away, and you click on it a second time, all your windows come back, however you have them.
Yes.
In some distros, Alt-Tab will bring it up stuff.
Is the GNOME have a Show Desktop?
I've never had a name for it. Oh, it does?
It does in Linux Mint, and it's on Mate, so it's kind of GNOME based.
Stanford. Stanford.
Is Mate GNOME 2 or GNOME 3?
GNOME 2.2.
Yeah, GNOME 2, I don't have much complaints again, but the GNOME 3 is bothering me right now.
It's crap.
That's your,
What did they do? Release 3 before it was halfway done, like they do on KDE?
Yeah.
Oh.
And they're working on 4 now, doing the same damn thing.
Yeah, and I'm using Tight VNC, and the function keys are in fact different than they are if you're on the actual console itself.
So what I'm hearing is that GUIs are bad. We should all just be using the TTY as God intended.
Yep.
Yes.
Or Emacs, as some other people will argue for.
Yes, absolutely.
By the way, Ed Howland posted in the chat there's a URL from quorum.com why did GNOME 3 do away with the minimize button?
That's what I asked.
Yeah,
Because-
exactly. Yeah. So out there on Quorum, somebody has answered this question.
It's because snot-nosed developers do what the hell they want to do.
Oh, I am getting a page not found when I try and go to that link, Ed.
Oh,
Is it missing an N on the end? Not buto, but button?
Yep, that would be it. There we go.
Ooh, share your screen, James.
James.
Mr. Conroy.
We'll get it right one of these days. Oh, too far.
Ooh.
First, let's consider the issue of minimize buttons. Why remove them? They don't make sense with the current shell design. There's nothing to minimize to, like a dock or window list. And potentially confusing since users will not know where their windows have gone. We got rid of the dock, so let's get rid of the minimize.
Okay,
There
let me stop you right there. If there's no place for them to go, then when you have one on top of the other, how do you go to the dock and get the one that's hidden back on top?
Hit the Windows key.
Yeah, you go to the activities and then click the dock thing. But yeah, they got rid of the always present dock.
I
mean, wherever,
like you can hit Alt Tab, and that shows you a list along the left-hand side of however many desktops you got open.
So that excuse is wrong. There's no place for them to go. They live somewhere. They live someplace. Read on.
Minimize buttons could be replaced with hide buttons, but that would require a new way of organized minimized windows in the overview, and we need to establish an effective way of communicating where the hidden windows have gone. These changes would add complexity to the overall design and subsequently to user interaction. And that would go against the aim of producing something that is simple and straightforward to use.
Which nobody knows how to use.
Well, the thing those guys forget is there may be a whole lot of users out there that know how it used to work, and maybe nobody asked them if they thought.
Well, there was a snot-nosed developer a couple of years ago. He eliminated Control-Alt backspace because it interfered with his non-US keyboard. And he figured nobody else needed the damn thing. It took him over a year to get the thing back in the kernel.
What did Control-Alt backspace do?
If your graphical X window stuff is locked up, it logs you out of the system so you can come back in.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for 15 years. So this guy decided
that sounds
he'd limit
important.
it. Yeah.
And yet we can't get rid of the caps lock key. That is stuck where it is.
No shit. And that is not French.
All right. Anybody interested in talking about DNS stuff?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't spell DNS. So go ahead, folks.
Well, there's only 3 letters in the word, Stan.
What word?
DNS.
Yes.
You can't spell 3 letters?
Let me look it up here.
DNF? Is that what we're talking about? DNF.
Electromotive
does not find.
Delta November Sierra. Okay, I got it.
No, the Delta November Foxtrot.
Sierra.
Does not find.
Yeah, did find. 404.
505.
Yeah.
Of course, what did
really in trouble.
YUM mean? YUM is not like apt-get. It's like YUM.
Yellow Dog Update Manager. Come on, man.
That's right.
Doesn't that just spring to mind?
And that DNF stands for does not function.
No, that would be YDUM.
Well, Andrew was logged on a little while ago, but I don't see him on at the moment.
He always came to our meetings at the libraries, and he'd be there about 15 minutes, and then he'd disappear.
So
I always figured he was a an NSA drone, and he was just taking heads count.
Anyway, you were the first one who responded to him, I think. So why don't you kind of describe what that thread became, what that thread started as?
Who is you?
Lee. I said Lee was the first person I think who responded to.
No, you didn't say Lee. You said you. I wanted to know who you was. Hey, you're talking to the guy who can't remember what his first name is until he looks in the mirror in the morning.
Okay.
Because I'm wearing a name tag.
Stan, why don't you just change your name to CRS, and that way you don't have to remember anything.
Okay.
All right. Well, one of the topics I thought of, which is kind of complicated, was Stan came to me last week and said, "Hey, I found a new domain name I want to add." Well, I guess I better share my screen. Hold on a second.
It was newlinux.org.
Yep.
And I really wanted to use newcomer.org, but they wanted $6,000 for that, so that didn't work.
Just wait a while. We can add it.
Yeah. Well, I will go back and keep looking. I'll tell you. Because
Okay,
I also found slack.org, that I've been looking for that for a number of years, because we dropped the ball on that. Noel had offered slack.com to us years back when he got out of the situation.
Anyway, here's a domain name that Stan wanted, newlinux.org. It is now set up, and I'm going to go through that setup because we do things kind of differently at STLLUG. First off, just do a dig on newlinux.org. I didn't bother to set up a www because I don't think anybody should fool with them anymore, especially for something this simple. So I did a query on newlinux.org. Everybody knows what dig is, right?
Nope.
Oh, come on, James.
I've curled. I've done whois. I've never done a dig though.
Well, dig. There's a number of ways to do it. You can do a host, get an IP address. You can do an NS lookup, which gives you server name and IP address. But if you do dig, you get a lot more detail.
Yeah, I have done NS lookup before.
Right.
Dig is better.
Wait a minute. Why did that not? That's crazy.
Are those three separate apps, or are they aliases for the same app?
Three separate apps.
Different applications. Why is it giving me a truncated reply? Because when I did it before, that's a whois. Okay. Well, okay. Let's take a different approach. Notice that newlinux.org has our 210 IP address for Bach. If I did a whois on newlinux.org, here's a domain name to Stan registered. 2 cows. That's who we use. That's a lot better place to deal with than GoDaddy or all those others. They rip you off. But anyway, the magic sauce here is this thing called BuddyNS. We've been using it for STLLUG for over 10 years now. And BuddyNS is a way to replicate your domain service around the world. I'll show you where these come from here in a minute, but STLLUG is configured to use 4 of the BuddyNS name servers, and we do not publicize the STLLUG core server here anywhere. In other words, if I do a whois on STLLUG.org, STLLUG uses the same 4 name servers, BuddyNS, which means that no DNS query ever hits Bach. $64,000 question. If no DNS query ever hits Bach, how do we replicate the DNS information out to BuddyNS? That threw me for a loop over 10 years ago when I first started playing with it. Come on now, somebody. I'll give you a hint. It starts with a Z.
Zoom.
Zafiropoulos.
Now Tony's not here. Come on, guys.
Sounds like a model name for a Camaro. Sorry.
Well, that was a Z28.
When you say Bach, are you talking about the actual server all the websites are hosted on?
Correct.
And is
Bach
that a...
Bach is a VM here that is dedicated to STLLUG. I'm sorry, was somebody going to say something?
It's a Budweiser thing.
Yeah, just
All of our servers used to be named after different beers from Budweiser. Light and Michelob and
Amber.
Amber. Yep.
Okay. I'll give you a hint. Second letter. O is an Oscar.
Zone?
Say again?
Zone?
Yeah. And what's the second part?
I don't remember my last name sometimes. What do you mean second part?
All right, never mind.
Zone configuration, zone setup.
Zone transfer.
Yeah!
Yay, Phil! Yay!
5 points.
Someone here had to be competent.
We have had an account at buddyns.org for over 10 years. And it costs $3 a month to have 10 zones hosted on their servers. And you can pick from any server. Someone here, there's about 20 of them around the world. We pick 4 of them here basically around the States.
Does the sequence make any difference?
Not really, because theoretically, when you issue a DNS request, it ends up at the server closest to you. In other words, it goes to whoever your DNS configured server is. That goes to the root servers, and then the root server dispatches to the closest server that is configured to host your domain. Looks like 7 years ago, we did STLLUG.org. I thought it was longer than that, but I'll believe 7 years. Last changed on July. We've got STLLUG, STLLUNX, Slack, and New Linux. I did these 2 this week for Stan.
Where are you reading that?
Right. You don't see this on the screen?
New lug is at the top, second line down.
Let me. God damn it. You don't see the BuddyNS screen here?
Yep.
You do. Good. I thought I had the desktop share, but it may have just been the window before. Okay, this is the BuddyNS screen. Our account is treasurer@STLLUG.org. His credentials are on Bach, which everybody should know in case I get hit by a bus or something. And you have to have 2-factor authentication, so I've got my cell number in there right now. And here's the zones. Again, New Linux and Slack were the ones I did this week for Stan. Here's our original STLLUG from 2014, almost 8 years ago, or 7 years, a little over 7 years ago. So what happens is when I configure these on Bach or DNS, Okay, pardon the comments. I would have taken these out, but other people might have a need for them. So here's the definition of the zone for newlinux.org. Standard format. Here's the host name that the master is hosted on. I don't know what domains is, but here's where we define the 4 name servers for newlinux.org. These are the name servers that get propagated with every query that comes to one of these servers. And remember, those servers are retrieved from the whois record. BCED, right? BCED. These are the 4 servers that are legal authentication authorized. Authoritative. Correct. Thank you.
That's a word I never knew the meaning of, for sure.
Authoritative means the defined IP address or name of that server is the one that is authorized to provide information for that query. So if it's not an authoritative source, it means somebody else has looked it up on an authoritative source and given it to you.
Kind of floating around in RAM if it's not authoritative. It's residual.
Right. But any residual entry has traceability, has an entry that shows where it came from. And if that source where it came from is not authoritative, it's invalid. Okay, here is the IP for the domain name. Notice the @ symbol in the first column. It's an A record, an IP address. If somebody wanted to use the www, there's a CNAME here to catch it and turn it into newlinux.org, which would then get this IP address.
And this is on the Bud DNS account?
No. Here, we're on Bach here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The Bud DNS account just defines the domains that are authorized to use Bud DNS. God damn it, get out of there. Okay, all Buddy has is this is the entry in Bud DNS that tells Bud DNS, yes, we're paying to have Bud DNS be authoritative for this domain. And then these are the 4 Bud DNS servers that we have assigned to the account.
And they point back to Bach's IP number.
The website does.
I mean, yeah. Okay.
Right.
Anyone know what that A stands for in the record, the type? I know, probably looked it up first or some other time, but I can't recall right now.
Yeah, it's
the MX records were the
record.
mail transfers. I think
The A record is the website usually, normally.
Well, it's the address record, right?
Right. A stands for address.
Right.
And then CNAMEs like redirect to this URL.
Right.
Or something.
These 2 entries right here form the basis of any standard website today. The domain name itself, newlinux.org, has an address record for the IP. And then if somebody were to type in www by mistake, the CNAME would change it to newlinux.org.
Well, I'm old school. I would use the www.
Oh, it's probably just change name.
No, CNAME stands for canonical name.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, when they dreamed all this up, 30 years ago, they wanted to use as many 25-cent words as they could come up with.
Hey, when you pay for a thesaurus, you better use a thesaurus.
Right. All right, so is everybody comfortable with how we define an IP for newlinux.org to point to Bach?
What file is this?
This is the zone file for, okay, let's jump out of here for a second.
In bind. Oh, okay.
See, Bach is the master DNS server for all of our domains, all the STLLUG domains.
Right.
But as a DNS server, it is not published anywhere, because if Bach were to go away, we don't want anybody getting a reply that says server not available. This is the way Craig set it up 12, 14 years ago, or whatever it was. And it works pretty well. It costs us $36 a year to use their service. And we never have to use the master for wherever, we never have to use the master directly.
And all this info, it's transferred to our provider?
Yes.
Okay. And
BuddyNS does a zone transfer on a regular basis, whatever the TTL is, time to live. I don't know what it's set up for. I think it's set up for like an hour or something like that. So every time the TTL expires, the BuddyNS will query and say, "Hey, do you have any new data?"
Oh, and that's done on Buddy DNS's side, not the cron job in the lower window.
Right. Because when I set them up on BuddyNS, I had to do, what was it? This one right here, I think. Check the primary name server. Oh, here it is. Immediate synchronization. I'll show you how to authenticate here in a few minutes. But basically, when I set it up, I make sure the primary works.
Lee, can you add www into the Slack?
It's there too.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder why it's not working.
So are STLLUG and STLLinux aliases for the same web page?
Yes. I'll show you that here in a few minutes.
That's some other magic behind the scenes. After you hit this URL, what web page do you end up on?
Right. Let's put that off for a few minutes, Stanford.
Okay.
It should work,
there's
Stan.
6 domain names, but there's really only 5 web pages.
Oh no, I get a secure connection not available message when I try using the www get to Slack. It redirects me to just the HTTP and gives me an invalid host page.
Huh.
But if you take off the www, it works fine. Or
yeah, it sort of works.
Well, New Linux works, so I figured a Slack would too.
I just went to slack.org and I'm on a GoDaddy page. It says part free.
Oh no.
First time I tried these after Lee set it up, I got to a marijuana page.
Okay.
Of course, so go figure. I don't know.
Okay, both the digs work. I don't know. We may have to check into that.
Okay.
By the way, this is what I expected to see when I was doing the dig before.
Yeah.
The authority section.
Yes.
Because this will tell you who the authoritative name servers are, and it will also give you the
IP4 and IP6.
Yeah, IP4 and IP6, because the A is the A record, and the quad A is the V6 record.
Hey, Lee.
Yes, sir.
I just did a dig on slack.org, and I'm spelling it I'm spelling it wrong. That's my problem. That would cause a problem.
Yeah, probably would.
Did you know there's SAAC.org?
SLACC.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, okay, I didn't do it. No, if you do a dig on SLAAC.org, it's out there.
Huh.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
who it is.
Anyway, we'll have to troubleshoot that. So
Okay.
why would Slack.org work or New Linux work and Slack not?
It's an interesting question. Hey, I'm learning a lot of stuff here, folks.
Cool.
Yes, SLACC.org.
Correct.
I get invalid host on my browser.
That's what everybody's getting, Steve.
Oh,
But try New Linux.
pardon?
But try newlinux.org.
Okay.
They'll take you to newlinux.slug.org. Now, let me ask you this. If I put in newlinux.org,
newlinux.org did not take me. I got to not connect on newlinux.org.
And I got to newlug.slug.org.
correct.
This is Stan. Could it be the fact that these domain servers are not fully propagated with the information yet?
No, okay, wait a minute. What happened was if I went to HTTPS newlinux.org, I got an invalid. If I went to HTTP newlinux.org, it took me to HTTPS newlug.slug.org.
And that is a secret. That's what's happening here. We have last year we approved a thing to do DNS resolution over TLS. So
I
what
can't
happens
hear whoever's talking.
in the field, you can actually set it up that the authority for the secured thing is included in the person who does his DNS. So it's only available to the people that are in that particular group. Sometimes you are lucky and you can just say, I want to go to Google, and it seems to work. But if you go to AWS, it won't work because AWS is all doing it under IO under DNS or DOH. So they're doing the lookup in the web page, and they're using a secured connection, so there's nobody on the outside can see it.
Dave, the outside of what?
I what?
You said nobody outside. Outside of what? I didn't catch that.
Well, last year, I think I know I did it. I put a kind of a lament in a presentation where I talked about DNS wars. And what happens is the commercial people make their money off of the sale of advertising and everything else. But individual work groups like to keep their information private. Well, what that's for is the ability to be able to do a DNS over TLS. So they had to have the authority, the certificate as a regular TLS connection. Somebody has to have that. And what they can do is in a hoster, they can actually allow a secured connection to make it. There was an interesting comment made, I think just last week or so, that said that some people are proposing that we don't have an open way of getting in there. It has to be TLS, and they won't let you do a lookup. I'm kind of against that.
Can you increase your gain a little bit? I can barely hear you.
I increase it. Let me see. It's about as loud as I can make it. I don't know what's going on. Oh, I also put a chat notice there to tell you that I had to get a COVID shot today. Actually, I went down because I ended up with a little problem, and they actually gave me a COVID test for the Delta variant, and I flunked it. So I'm in the process of trying to heat that up, trying to get that working. So I hope you all can forget that. Can give me a little bit of space tonight for being stupid.
You're in good company.
Yeah, as long as you do that for me every day.
Yeah. Can you turn your microphone up a little bit, Dave?
We've tried that. Dave came in early, and we've been fiddling with it since he came in.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Stan.
Hey guys, this is Ed.
Hey, Ed.
I have a question about I had this question for Phil when he brought it up about newlinux.org. When I go there with Safari on my Mac, it says this web page is not secure. If you go to https://newlinux.org, it says this web page is not secure. This may be trying to impersonate another, it's trying to say there was a man in the middle attack or something like that. So my is,
yeah, Ed, you're shilling me, because that's the next thing I want to point out.
Well, I was just going to point out. I was going to ask: is there a certificate for that website?
No.
Okay, that's probably why.
That's why you put in newlinux.org, and it gets redirected to newlug.slug.org, which has a certificate because it uses a wildcard for slug.org.
Okay, so I can't put in https://.
Correct.
Correct.
Well, I don't think people are going to know that,
Well, why would they put it in anyway?
That's
habit.
That is what I was talking about. Is that there's some move afoot to do all of them under the TLS and drop out the direct name field. Well, that's going to screw everybody up. So I can't imagine.
Well, no, David. We're talking about the website, not the DNS resolution here.
No, but the website is located by using, as you did here, a C name, and that C name you can hide. But if it's done directly with a TLC, and it's only done with a TL, then you could control the certificates to your customers. And what they're doing is they'll put a whole customer site under one certificate. Then they can sell that to a customer, and that customer has the authority to actually go there, but nobody else can unless it's going through the ISP or the person with it.
I have no idea what that means. Sorry.
Well, I posted a couple things last week, I think, about using a Google site, which is open right now. And if you do the same thing on AWS, it's closed and you don't get an answer from it. So there was even one today, I think, about 8 hours ago when I was feeling crappy. But I guess don't know if I can.
I just confirmed that if you type newlinux.org, it does take you to the right place, but to the HTTPS does not.
Right, and the reason it doesn't is because if you look at the configuration on Bach, where is it? Sites available. And we have a bunch of websites available on Bach. And if I were to look at New Linux, where am I? Where's okay, here, New Log, here it is. You know, we've got a whole stack of websites using the name newlug.slug.org. You got Hazelwood, HZLUG, HCWLUG, Hazelwood dot, newbie dot, newcomer dot, and newlinux.org. So once we start adding domains that are not a subdomain of slug.org, it means we can no longer use the wildcard cert for slug.org. So there's two goals in this server configuration here. You know, number one, we want the physical server name to end in slug.org so we can use the wildcard cert. And number two, we want all of these to go to the same place so that we can use one set of web pages for it. Okay. So if any of these come in, if the server name matches newcomer dot, newbie dot, hazelwood dot, HZ, WHCL, HAZ, or newlug, it gets newlug.slug.org. Right here is the magic sauce. So we can have 5, 10, 15, however many aliases we want, pointing to the same physical set of web pages on the server using the slug.org wildcard cert. You know, if you know where you're going, if you're going to a bank site or a vendor or something like that, then yeah, the link probably should have HTTPS in front of it, which means that you're going directly to that site using a TLS or SSL connection. But if you're just going to a mom and pop website, you shouldn't use an HTTP or HTTPS because you want to be able to take advantage of that server configuration that might translate your domain name to something that the site owner wants. In this case, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different server aliases that all point at newlug. Yeah, go ahead.
That might be what you want, and I understand why you want it, and that all makes sense. I don't think that it recognizes the reality on the ground very well as far as the direction that browsers are headed. And I believe that that direction is to assume HTTPS if it's not if one or the other is not specified.
Okay. I believe, this is Stan, I believe that the latest browsers, the Firefox and the Chromium are assuming HTTPS.
Yeah, they assume, and then if it's not available, they throw up the warning of, hold on, this is a non-secure website.
That's not
Can't
nice.
you guys get a Let's Encrypt cert for it?
Right, but then we've got to manage 30 different certs. Right now, we've got one cert for slug.org, and it's a wildcard for everything in the domain.
Oh, it's even worse than that. You think that the browsers are assuming HTTP. I tried to put in just a URL, and it said, oh, you want me to go to a search engine and look this up for you? And it's like, no, I want you to go to that host name.
No, you missed something in the formatting, Stanford.
I forget which one of my friend's computers I was using and which one of his stinky browsers, but I just put in, hostname.domainname.com or whatever it was, and it took I didn't type it in the search block. I typed it in the address bar, and it went out and did a search for it.
Probably because there was no website configured for that host name .domain name.
No. Put in stanfordkb.webs.com.
Who?
stanfordkb.
Kilo Bravo?
Yep, .webs.com. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to take you there instead of doing a Google search, which won't find it.
Well, first off, your cert doesn't look valid.
It's just a dumb lightweight touchdown point.
Okay.
But yeah, it's the stupid browsers that are saying, even though you put this in the address bar, since you didn't specify a protocol, I'm going to do a search for you.
I've never seen that. It's probably something on Apple.
I think it was a Windows browser.
Really?
Yeah, Explorer and Chrome both do that too.
So I appreciate the comment. I forget who said it. It might have been Jonathan, of, that where on the ground, where are web browsers going? It's like, I don't think there is a standard. Some browsers are behaving this way. Some browsers are behaving another way.
Yeah, no kidding.
We have 12 standards.
I had another one where I put in SFTP : / host name, domain name, or whatever. And it went and did a search for that. Like, I gave you a protocol. Go use it.
Probably didn't have it.
Or it might have been overwritten because, as I said, they sort of try to anticipate your behavior.
No, the latest
app installed.
The new browsers are dropping FTP as a protocol.
I said SFTP. I said SFTP, but again, some browsers understand that protocol, some don't.
Right.
Yeah. Firefox doesn't like it.
Yeah, Firefox was one of the misbehaved ones. Conqueror's great. Firefox doesn't understand the SFTP protocol.
But there's no legitimate reason in my mind to use a browser for SFTP. When all you have to
is really nice. I mean, you can use a file manager.
Yeah.
You can use Dolphin or Nautilus, but you can also use Conqueror, and it behaves the same way. It's using your browser as a network file manager.
Huh, that's weird.
When it's working properly in Conqueror, you split the screen in half, you open up one view to a folder on one machine and another view to a folder on another machine, and you drag files back and forth. And you double click on them and it brings them in and sucks them into your editor, and you do a save and it writes it back out on the network where it came from.
Okay, now that works both ways. Why didn't it before?
Buffer.
Oh, I know what it is. Never mind. No, it's I have to use a configuration, special configuration to talk to mail because it's too old. You know what? Let's see, where am I? Here. When I want an SSH from a new machine to my mail server, which is OpenBSD 3.3, I have to specifically allow the cipher and the key algorithm, because that's been deprecated probably 3 or 4 times in the last 20 years.
So that interferes with the SFTP connection?
Right, because when I'm using Nautilus to do it, he doesn't have access to my SSH config. Because when you go SFTP://mail from here, oh, well, shit, now it works.
Well, if you said mail, that took without, yeah. When
Right.
you just said mail, it took you to the local mail folder on your own machine. You have to put in a full host name.
Well, or
that's a good question. When you just say mail, like, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Now that's a host, yeah, a computer and then a folder and then a.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is Nautilus, right? Some place there's a menu item that says split this screen into 2 screens.
Yeah, see, this is 7812 ESR. So I guess that change has been there for a while. Yeah, and it's not gonna, I don't know if there's a way to turn Firefox. Now, apparently there's ways to do it. FTP. Yeah. I don't remember what the site is. Anybody know an FTP site that's still viable?
MIT.edu.
No, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
I'm sure they got a host name out there. It's not on the top level domain.
Try putting ftp.mit.
Crap.
Yeah.
Getting redirected to, hey, do you want to open this in Firefox or Chromium
Well, anyway,
or something else?
There's a lot of different. Let's try and get back to a general topic on DNS and the way things should work, rather than complaining about individual implementations that don't work.
Yeah. Well, and anyway, I would leave this as, what the hell? I would leave this as an exercise for someone that wants to help out. If there's a better way to do a stack of redirects like this, I'm sure we would entertain it. But for now, New Linux works, and let's see.
So show me that stack again, or well, I'll wait till you get done with doing what you're doing.
Yeah, okay, so there's the redirect. There's the write condition. Rewrite condition equals slack.org. Looks right, doesn't it? Does that help anybody?
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a further question regarding the domain name. So let's say I had my own website and I said, oh, okay, I'd like to point at newlinux.org. How would I embed a record in there? What would the actual thing be? Be href equals quotation mark newlinux.org close quotation mark?
Were you talking about this?
Okay, well, I'm not talking about any of this. Hypothetically, if I had a website and I wanted to point people at the newcomer Linux users group, how would I format that A record?
Just like this. Right. Hang on a second. You'd have to create a zone file for your DNS server, And then you would have to create at least, the A record, in this case for the domain name, and then a C name for the www. Now, I don't think that's what you're asking, though, is it?
No. I'm writing an HTML file, right? In my HTML file, I'll have some text that says, hey, newcomers to Linux, go here. And then there'd be a, less than sign A space href equals quotation mark. And then what?
Oh, I get you. Good question. I would just put in double quote newlinux.org and double quote. Because that way, when you take that link, it's going to honor any redirects in the file.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Ed. How would you normally, when you set up those, what do they call, address records or anchor records, anchor tags?
Yeah, that's it, anchor tag.
When you on the href equals, would you usually be inclined to specify a protocol or not specify a protocol?
Well, I'm kind of old school, so I always specified the protocol, but maybe that's not the way to do it anymore. I don't know. I'm not a web developer anymore.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Stan.
This is Stan. By habit, I try to do the full protocol, HTTPS or whatever.
Right, but if you're building the link in a web page, you should know exactly where you want to go.
Well,
in which case you would use https newlinux.slug.org.
No, not what we just discovered a few minutes ago,
right? Because if I went to newlinux.org, I wouldn't necessarily look in the URL bar to see what the address was.
No. What I'm saying, Ed, is if you are creating a link in a web page to use the href you're talking about, you would know where exactly to direct that.
How do you know I would know that?
Because if I want to put a link in a web page, I would think I would know where I want to go.
Well, this is Stan.
Not if somebody told me to go to newlinux.org, wouldn't.
Stan would do https://www.newlinux.org.
Stan, I agree. The thing is, that's different than writing.
I know. It's habit. It's my habit. That's all. I agree.
But wouldn't you test that first to make sure it's the right link?
Oh yes, definitely.
Okay. Then I hear what Ed's saying, but I'm thinking that if I am writing an href link in an HTML page for somebody else to read, I better test that link first to make sure I got the right link.
Yes.
And I guess I would be very confused if I tried to go there with HTTPS and it didn't work.
Right.
But if I went to newlinux.org in my URL bar, it would work. So I'm like, okay, what do I put in there?
But then you would copy the link in the URL bar, https newlog.slug.org.
Well, now that's dangerous. If, now you're saying when you type something in the URL bar and it takes you someplace else, which one of those is and do I want to use the word canonical name? What is the buzzword I want to use that is, that one is the advertised name and, and it's like, do not bookmark this page, right? It's like use our alias. Don't use where our alias sends you.
Isn't this wonderful, folks?
Need Scott Graneman on this one. He'll tell you how to design your web.
Well, it is wonderful.
Yeah, but he'll spend 3 weeks talking about fonts and nobody gives a darn about it.
I enjoyed the fonts thing. I loved it.
Well, it's good information, but I never paid for a font in my life.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but the choice of fonts is very important and starts flame wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what's one? Fire Mono people really like or something.
So I have to ask you, Ed. I'm not picking on you or teasing you, but do fonts make a difference to you anymore?
Not really. I think I can be told if there's bold or italic. That lets me know about that, but that's about it.
What
on
happens
on your reader? Did Times New Roman sound any different than Helvetica sounds?
No, I'd have to really dig into it to get the actual font name. But if I'm on a something that has a bold typeface, it will sometimes tell me that. It depends on who designed the website.
Hey, is better than all of
and
us.
your screen reader is probably
he never has to guess whether or not that one character is an L or an I.
Your screen reader's probably not sensitive to fit.
Say that again, Stanford. I didn't hear you.
The screen reader's probably not sensitive to fixed and variable width fonts like Courier.
Yeah, it pretty much just treats everything as plain text.
As white space.
Right.
But
Yeah,
for some of us,
like,
you need a Courier font so that all the white space lines up. But for your screen reader, it's like, no, it's just white space.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, basically, it reads it as its English prose. Right?
I suppose if you went and cut and pasted it out of wherever it was into some other document, then it would.
How in the hell would
Yeah, there's actually, Stanford, there's actually two ways to do the copy and paste. You can copy what the screen reader read to you, right? Which is pretty much just the English text. And that just comes back as straight ordinary ASCII. But if you use the computer's own copy command, like in the case of a Mac, it's Command C. That'll do the copy, which will grab the the font information and all that other stuff. And if you post it in, or paste it into your Word document or whatever, right, it will come back the way it came off the web page. But if you do it the screen reader way, it just comes back as ASCII text.
Okay.
9 times out of 10, that's what I want.
All right. Any other questions about the new domains I created for Stan?
What is a
Say again?
Yeah, what is a zone? Are we one zone or are we 6 zones or what is a zone?
A zone is a unique domain name, whether it's a high level or sub level. And it includes all the records pertaining to that particular domain, like TXT records, MX records, NS records, MX records, A records, CNAME, whatever you need.
So even though new Linux and new B end up at the same place, they're 2 different zones.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, because the magic that makes them happen at the same place is over on the web server that says, yeah, whenever you see this URL, take him to this page.
Well, but there's the part before that gives you the correct IP for that URL.
Yeah.
Right. So you have the correct IP, then you have to have the web server configured properly to translate that particular URL into the one you want to serve the page for.
Because all of these are going to the same IP, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the IP gets over there and says, now, wait a minute, all the newbie stuff goes to this page, all of the Slack stuff goes to this page.
Yeah, we've got 8 basic configurations. Default, A dot, which is admin, NewLog, Slack, STLLUG, WebDev, Wiki, and www. And then each one of those has a gazillion. Like here's STLLUG. Well, actually, that's pretty simple because there's only
a gazillion other spellings.
There's only 3 options here.
Well, the newbie seems to have the most.
Right, because that's one Stan's been percolating on for the last 10 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, HZ, HZW, HAZELWOD. Does this cause you to get more hits, Stan?
None of these were my idea. But I take I take that back. Not all of these were my idea. I don't.
Some of your flipping around, did I see SNUG?
Yeah, that was the old NUI, I think.
SN.
We got default Ember. We got new log.
There it is, snug.slug. What is SNUG?
Nobel. That's the old NUI.
NUI?
That was the lunch meeting that we had that went on Wednesdays.
Okay. I'm now curious, why did you make it, why did you tie it? Yeah, it is just SLUG, not STL Linux. Okay, it's just SLUG, right. Couple different ways. Snug, Novell, Netware, yeah. NUI, St. Louis NUI.
The SNUG
NUI
was
meaning what? Novell use.
Yeah, so St. Louis Novell User Group. That was our lunch meeting.
And the reason why Newbie or New Lug had Hazelwood at one time is it originally started as the Hazelwood Lug, and then its particular forte turned more and more to just handling new users, and the geographic suburb lugs just kind of started consolidating, and so we went with the more meaningful name.
Could we consider finding a new rat hole?
NUI, Novell, users,
International.
info?
International.
Okay.
I believe it was.
And Ken, by rat hole, you mean a different name, or you'd rather move on to a different topic?
The latter.
Okay.
All right. Somebody else asked a question.
This is Stan. I really enjoy what we've done here so far, but yes, my brain is starting to melt. So yes.
How about that discussion that was about IP geolocation that came as part of the spam detection?
Sure, I can talk about that a little bit. At least the topic in a general way.
Go ahead, please.
Let's see. Let me figure out how to share my screen. Let's try that.
Ooh, that works.
So what's the last line you can see, Stan?
Assumes ip2location.com has consolidated CIDR groups as possible.
Great. So let me talk about this a little bit, and then there are some other possible applications and other ways of doing this, and other people can chime in about those. I manage a server for a small business, and one of the things that server does is to act as an email server. It also has SSH ports, which are accessible from the outside world, or an SSH port. So some time ago, something that I did was to put in place some IP geolocation blocking. To do that, I've been using the information that's at ip2location.com. They let you download some free lists for different countries. This particular customer has some products which are subject to export licensing, and they were never going to do business with the Russian Federation, the People's Republic of China, and probably also a few other countries, but those are some big ones that kind of stand out. When I looked into this, at the time, the way to get this seemed like the way to get this done was to get a list of network addresses in CIDR format from ip2location.com, and then use the IP set software to create an IP set, which is essentially a hash of those networks, and then use that IP set when defining an IP tables filter rule. And in this case, it's drop anything that comes in from those addresses.
Can I ask you a quick question? What is CIDR?
Sure, that's a good question. The CIDR refers to a way of expressing IP version 4 network addresses. Classless interdomain routing. Classless interdomain routing is what the acronym stands for. And let's see, hold on just a minute. I can tell you what one will look like in this particular
So is that
case.
something like 192.168.1.0/24? Is that it?
Yes. In this case, that's exactly what it's like. Okay. So when you download one of these files from IP to location, what you get is a long list of networks in that format. And so what this script does is to build an IP set, grabbing those one at a time, leaving out the smallest ones, the 30s, the 31s, and the 32s. And then once the IP set is done, adding those all in one blow to a filter. So that's hundreds of lines of network definitions, but it's just one command to IP tables. So it turns out that I haven't actually updated that geolocation data very often, but I recently did that, updating from a set that I got 6 years ago. Doing that gave me 10 times as many drops per day average from the PRC, 3 times as many from the Russian Federation. So I would say that you should probably do an update at least once a year. I'm using this technique basically, not as an expectation that it's going to stop everything evil, just to cut down on the crap. And if that's what you're doing, it's not clear to me that you need to do those updates, every day or every week. One of the difficulties with the way that I'm doing it as shown here is that this configuration uses the old IP table syntax, not modern NF tables. That's something that will get addressed probably the next time I do an operating system update or in preparation for that, but haven't done it. It skips very small CIDR groups. I don't remember why I did that, but I do. I assume that ip2location.com has consolidated the CIDR groups if possible. That seems like a fair assumption. And this drops all traffic, not just email. And in this particular situation, that's fine. So,
hey, Ken, quick question.
Yes.
When you're building this blacklist, how do you achieve a good confidence level that the IPs you're blocking are actually from that particular geographic region?
I'm trusting the people at ip2location.com and the experience that I have in doing this for maybe 10-ish years total.
No, I mean,
nobody's come and complained.
If they did
really
have a complaint,
simple.
If they did have a complaint, they would just send you an email, right? If the email didn't work.
my assumption is that they would probably need to make a phone call.
Okay. Well, my question is, how do you block the Google email that comes from those geographic areas?
What does that question mean?
No, I mean, 90% of the spam we get nowadays is crap from Google. And most of it is in some, Korean or Chinese or whatever character set that you can't even read. But there's no way to block it because it comes from a Gmail server in the US.
Well,
Can you say that again?
I'm not
Lee?
having that problem. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay.
It doesn't come from gmail.com. It comes from gserve1 at gmail.com or gserve2 or whatever. And they're always in the US. They're never in the country of origin.
Right. And I'm not trying to say that what you're describing is not a real problem that you're experiencing. I'm sure it is. I'm just not having to deal with it.
Okay. So you don't have email users complaining about junk from Gmail that is, some sort of weird character set that doesn't even have ASCII characters in it?
No.
Huh. Okay.
I don't know where your users have been going, but my users apparently haven't been going there.
Well, it's not a question of going anywhere. I'm saying somebody has a Gmail account for 20 years, and the longer you have it, the more crap you get. So, it's been in the last 5 years, it has increased by an order of magnitude on some of mine.
This is like stuff you're receiving on Gmail?
Yeah. Spam.
I'm really not having that problem.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay. I guess your users, you have a lot of users on Gmail, or maybe you're just not even using it that readily or that often, that much.
Well, no, the users that I'm supporting on this server are all using this server as their email server.
No, what I'm saying is they don't have people sending them. They're not using a Gmail address at all. That's what you're saying.
Well, they apparently, yeah. Apparently not.
Well, see, in my case, I've got 8 or 9 Gmail addresses forwarded to my main email, because whenever I set up a monitoring system, I route that outbound email through Gmail and bypass everything in between, to make sure the message gets out if the network's up.
Okay.
And because of that, I've got those 8 or 9 different Gmail addresses dropping into my main mailbox every day. And I get, 90% of the spam I get overall is coming from Gmail. And the majority of that is, some weird character set that, appears to be from, Czechoslovakia or Afghanistan or something like that, because once in a while you see a name in there. And
I have a personal Gmail account, and Well, but wait a minute. My personal Gmail account is actually the target of a PO Box account, and PO Box is doing a lot of filtering first.
Okay.
So maybe that's where all that's going.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't something that that I could use to benefit. Go ahead. Thanks for the time.
Sure. Other questions about this? The basic concept of IPsec is you get this long list of networks. It creates this hash of it, and then that hash becomes the target of a single rule, which it makes your IP tables rule set much more readable than, for example, if you had one rule for every one of those networks, which would be, ghastly. And it's also much faster.
How does IP tables know from the hash what IP addresses those are?
That's the magic of IPsec. I don't know how it's implemented.
So IPsec is like running on your server, and It's like maybe IP tables looks at it, it queries it
So
or something.
in this particular case, this is a Debian server. IBset is a Debian package. You install it in the standard Debian ways, and it adds in these capabilities. And from what I've read about it, the way that it works is to hash these things and create this hash table, and then IP tables can deal with that hash table as an entity. But exactly what the details are of implementation, I cannot say.
Yeah. Ken, FYI, it is a standard utility in SUSE 15.3.
Sure, I expect that it's in other places, and my understanding is that NF tables, the new kind of similar capability to IP tables implements similar capability as IPset. This is just this is where I am right now and how I got it done. So currently I'm dropping about let's see, let me scroll down. No, that's all. Currently I'm dropping about 8,000 packets a day from the People's Republic of China, 1,500 per day from the Russian Federation. And I can't tell you anything about those packets. They just go immediately on the bit bucket. I never look at them, don't care. But the advantage of that is that they don't have to be processed, at a higher level where it would, put stuff in the log files and use up processor time and disk space and so forth.
Okay.
You use the word dropping packets. They're really dropping entire messages. Does that count a message count or a packet count?
That's a packet count.
Okay.
IB tables works in packages, not in packets. Not IB tables works in packets, not assembled.
Yeah.
IB
And
messages.
each part of the message, each packet in the message has got the source address, and that's why it gets dropped.
Correct. Anything else? Then I will stop the screen share and somebody else can have a turn.
Thanks, Ken.
Certainly.
By the way, IP2 location appears to be a service that might be commercial. Ken, do you have a way? Is there a? Are you using it other than through the commercial service, or how do you have that? Do you know how you have that set up?
Hold on a minute. Oh, that's not where that won't work. Well, let's see. Now that I'm doing this from my computer at home, it's working differently. Let's see. Let me, where is it? There it is. I mean, basically what happened was that, yeah, there we go. Um, I went to the URL that I just put in the chat. Now you need to have, script enabled, but at least if you don't go too often, it lets you just download the lists. And as we know, I don't go too often.
Somebody offline this week was asking a more fundamental question, that the whole concept of where an IP address is. And I was trying to explain, well, initially the address authority issued ranges of IP addresses to different countries and let those countries then spread it out to different owners of those IP addresses within the country. But is it not possible to fudge? I mean, how do we know somebody isn't using an incorrect IP address? Was the question posed to me.
Oh, even worse. You could duplicate IP addresses in some areas.
Mm-hmm.
They could forge them just fine. That's a classic cyber tactic, is to forge an IP address.
Mm-hmm.
But then locally, you'd hit their IP, right? I know it sounds horrible, but yes, it can happen.
Oh, it sounds like
cyber tactic. You can also go in and mess with the route tables to make sure it goes to your version of the IP address.
Yeah, which becomes
Sorry to put that nightmare in your heads, but there you go.
Oh yeah. And at that point, it's something that either the affected party or one of the affected parties has to complain back and eventually get it to the right ISP or the right internet transfer point to okay, we need a router person to go in and fix this router table somewhere.
So
remember, most route tables on major backbones now are automated, right? So they would go into their tool or their script. A lot of them use a script to do it, right? And then the script drops into the route table database, and the route table database pushes out to the configs. But depends on how big of a network you have and if you put that much effort into building that kind of crap.
So from the perspective of doing, geolocation filtering, that sort of thing might certainly affect, how effective it is. From my point of view.
Remember, the other thing is, that a place like a geolocation filtering or even a trace route will show the first place it pops out. Right? So if you're using something like MPLS tunnels or something like that, it can totally camouflage the location and pop out because it travels at layer 2 and then doesn't pop into layer 3 until the last minute.
Sure. What I was going to say is that you need to think, you shouldn't be thinking that geolocation filtering is going to magically solve all your problems with malicious actors, but it can significantly cut down the amount of crap you have to process. And you need to think of it in that way.
Agreed. I don't know. I usually block if I'm doing it for a network. I block by ASN too, but that's a whole nother discussion.
That actually is Ken, your experience is such a great counterpoint to the theoretical here. As Bryce was saying, yeah, you can just get a tunnel and wind up with an IP address on the other side of the world. But the fact that you're seeing such dramatic results just from what you're doing shows it's worthwhile. Can't argue with success.
Well, let's say that, so I'm dropping maybe, on a good day, I'm dropping maybe 10,000 packets. Well, you figure some of those are retries. So let's say it's 1,000. That's 1,000 log entries that don't need to get written or processed. On the scale of the server that I'm supporting, that's significant and useful. It's,
I'm sure it is.
it,
That does sound useful.
it's no guarantee that I've blocked everybody. That's not it at all, but it's significant and useful. So I do it. And then you do all the other things that you do to, you know, try and keep malicious actors from messing up your life.
Oh, yeah. But by the same token, you have to remember if somebody was really a serious attacker and either is targeting you or knows that they're targeting somebody in some particular part of the United States, yeah, they're going to use tunneling or some way of faking an IP address to get around this nice first way of solving this problem.
Sure.
And,
it's also important to keep in mind that when you're talking about information which is merely company confidential, not classified not the kind of classified information that gets armed guards.
mm-hmm.
Realistically, one of the possibilities that's available to a determined attacker is a physical attack. You go there, you break in, you steal the server, and you walk away.
Yeah, or steal the router cards, which I've seen experience where we had the in London we had the British mob come in there with bush cutters and cut the fiber in the back, and then come in with power tools and pop out a bunch of the cards they wanted, really expensive gigabit Ethernet routing line cards. And the whole time, of course, the guard was I don't know if they were knocked out or bought off. I couldn't remember which, but
right. But anyway, I mean, this is, the IP geolocation thing can be a useful tool as long as you understand, that it's capable of being helpful and it's not going to protect you against everything by any means. Now, what we haven't talked about in that regard, I mean, another way of addressing that might be to be doing lookup on a per email basis inside your email processing. From my point of view, that sounds complicated and possibly fragile, but that might just be because I got IPsec working and never looked back.
Would that be something like blocking everybody on your cell phone except anybody that you have in your address book?
Well, in a way, with email, of course, it's a little harder. If you actually had, email addresses or the IP addresses of the servers that they used for everyone you wanted to talk to and never needed to talk to anyone else, then you could certainly do that. For a private individual, that might be possible. That's less likely to work well for a company because their customers tend to change, and their contact people at their customers tend to change, from year to year or sometimes even month to month.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Bryce, you had started to mention autonomous numbers, ASNs, and would it be worthwhile to at least give a quick overview or direction of where you'd be going with that? Or is that just going to explode into too long of a conversation for tonight?
Well, that's a long conversation on how you engineer BGP, and really you need George Justice if you really want to do it right. I mean, even though I teach it, I am a very much amateur compared to somebody who works practitioner in BGP like a George. So
Yeah.
if you could ever talk him into showing up to this, man, then you'll get an earful.
I used to work with him, but I'm not sure.
He works with a company that does like high frequency trading nowadays, and yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Oh yeah.
What does ASN stand for?
Autonomous System Number.
Thank
So
you.
when you set up your border gateway protocol, it's how you say, okay, this is the network that I'm coming to. And just like IP addresses, there are private ASNs and public ASNs. And the public ones are registered through ARIN in the United States, BICE, ICANN. Right.
Thank you. That's enough info that it'll take me a week to figure out what you just said.
Yeah,
a really good podcast
episode
for that
like too.
is On the Metal. That's the guy from Sun Microsystems who invented dtrace. He started a new company called I can't remember, Oxide Computer Company, and he's got a new podcast called On the Metal, and there's a whole talk in there about ASN and how this guy out in California started as an ISP just sort of by accident. He just ran one fiber cable and he became an ISP.
Wow.
It's a really, really good podcast. I really recommend. I learned more about ASN than anything else I ever read.
Awesome.
By the way, guys, I wanted to clarify something about newlinux.org. We were talking about that. Just to be extremely clear, when you go to newlinux.org, there is 0 redirects happening. Okay, so I don't want anybody to be confused by that. There's not a single redirect happening anywhere. When you go to newlinux.org and it takes you to newlug.slug.org, there's no redirects there at all. That's all happening at the DNS level. So what ends up happening, and I posted this in the chat, if you go to that Wikipedia link, it talks about this. It says that the DNS fails. I can't find that. I wonder why. And then it shows, oh, wait a minute, I've got a canonical record for that, newlinux.org. Here's the canonical record. And then it takes you to newlug.slug.org. So it literally does it at the DNS resolver. Doesn't even do it on your computer or anywhere else. It could be happening at your ISP, could be happening upstream. You don't even know. It's happening at the DNS resolver level. So 0 redirects. Just wanted that to be pretty clear. There are no HTTP 302 error codes being returned.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me show an example here before we leave, if I could find it.
While you're looking for your example, Ken is going to be leaving us in a minute, or did he just leave?
No, but he's going to. I need to do a little work for customer before I turn in, and I had a physically somewhat demanding day.
Yeah.
Anybody got any very short, quick questions for Ken with any of the stuff he's covered? Okay, well, thank you very much for all your good input, Ken.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Ken.
Yeah, Ken, thanks a lot.
Certainly. Have a good evening, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you very much.
All right, I just want to show this example of an ASN. Everybody knows that Bach is hosted here at Omnitech. And last year we switched to AT&T Fiber. So right now the ASN that owns our IP block is ASN 7018, which is also called AS pound nowadays instead of ASN for number, AS pound for AS, whatever. and that happens to be one of the AS numbers that AT&T owns, because they're handling our fiber. And just over a year ago, we spent a very tense Friday night on the horn with a chap in India who was very knowledgeable, and it took us an hour to get our IP block released from the ASN of our previous provider and activated on AT&T. So every IP block in the world belongs to an ASN, assuming it's active, and that ASN is owned by some sort of provider that has set up the BGP system to route traffic in their network. So ASN is really the opposite of DNS. You know, it's from the other direction. If you want to, if your ISP wants to find out how to get to the IP of a website, they go up and look up the ASN for that website and send a BGP query to the owner of that service. And that service then tells them where the route is to send that traffic. That's the simplest way to explain it. And that's darn near my limit of my knowledge. And I think that might help people out. Any questions?
Although I think previously they've already done that, right? They don't do it every time you type it into your address bar in your search engine. They've already looked up that route previously.
Right. It keeps a routing table dynamically. It could be thousands or millions of entries within their BGP system that says when that traffic comes along, here's the place to point it. And yes, if it's totally weird, they have to look it up. I don't know that much about it. I don't think we need to get into it, but there's probably different ways to cache it and things like that, especially depending on the size, how big the network gets. And it's similar things happen with DNS. Every DNS server will cache the entry that retrieves for basically the TTL, the time to live that it retrieves along with the record.
Yep, I do agree though that would be a fun, topic to talk about.
Yeah, it would be.
I agree.
I'm having a similar problem only with cell phones. I'm trying to unlock an iPhone, what was on AT&T, and to get it off to T-Mobile, and AT&T is delaying and delaying and delaying. They won't do it.
Well, a lot of times they can't. It's a hardware lock. Some phones have a hardware lock on them. Does anybody know if that's the same with Apple? It is with Android.
According to everything that I've been told, it's a software lock.
Okay.
I put in the request, and it says the request is valid and pending. It's just not been released yet. I just have to wait.
All right, somebody else can ask a question.
I was gone for a while taking care of my dog. What did I miss?
Everything, Steve. You have to look at the recording.
Yeah, I know. I'm just being facetious.
Hey, Steve, we found a good algorithm that makes it real simple for any Linux box to come up with the winning lottery ticket number. And
Oh, really?
missed it.
Damn. Damn.
I planned on blurring that when it comes to the recording.
Are you trying to keep all those millions for yourself, Stan?
I just want to see that Steve doesn't get any.
There you go.
Story of your life, right, Steve?
No shit.
see, were there, Stan or Lee, do you remember anything else about the spam issue that Mike was talking about?
Well, our discussion was there seems to be a spurious 127.001 introduced as a relay when Spam Assassin handles the query for a particular message. And I don't see it on any other piece of traffic. Mike says he doesn't see it on any other traffic. So it may be some sort of issue with Spam Assassin when he sees what he thinks is a high spam count, because that link I sent last week, that it introduces it. We don't, I don't know if there's any way to figure it out.
So you think that's just something that happens on Bach?
Yeah. Because what happened was there was two. You'd have to look it up in the sysadmin. Was it sysadmin? I think on a sysadmin list, I posted the log entries up there. For some reason, there was a relay host inserted in the headers on the email, and Spam Assassin picked up on that as opposed to the actual source of the email. And that spurious one was 127.001, which Spam Assassin was classifying as out of the country, which is kind of weird. I think it's a configuration issue on Spam Assassin, but
yeah.
Anyway, but apparently it hasn't affected too many people. It's just that long link that I posted about the T-Mobile hack.
Okay.
Which I was notified today that I was a victim of.
Same here.
I want them to give me my money back.
Yeah. I tell you, I think T-Mobile was in such a god-awful hurry to buy Sprint the other year that's where they put all their effort, was just making that purchase happen. Meantime, all hell broke loose and they don't care.
Yeah, if you were a Sprint customer, I've got two SIM cards from, Lee, I've got two SIM cards sitting outside in a FedEx bag. I have to go get them from Ting, and they specify that I'll be on the Verizon network.
Okay.
The guy I talked to at Ting, he went and looked up the coverage map. Sounds like he may have a better coverage map than you and I can get on the web. And I told him where I lived, and I said, T-Mobile just sucks, And I said, I also travel. Now, that's not aircraft big city to big city. I said, I drive, and I spend a lot of time going through small places. And, like Southern Illinois, there are no big cities down there. And, Carbondale, I guess. But, and I said, every time I go through a city, I got cell service for about 5 minutes. And I said, what do I do if I'm out on the, between the cities and I got flat tire? I'm back to flagging down a motorist,
Yep.
And he said Verizon's coverage is a whole lot better in your area. And
Verizon's coverage is a whole heck of a lot better anywhere except possibly for interstate highways and cities over 500,000 people.
That was T-Mobile's market. T-Mobile was only interested in the biggest cities, and they'd have a thin line along the interstate highways.
And that's still the case. I don't care what they say, because I was up in the middle of Iowa in June. No T-Mobile service at all, because I've got a hotspot on T-Mobile and a iPad. Nothing. My Verizon phone had 3 bars.
Yeah.
Now the only problem is trying to figure out how to fix a black hole like down here in the Bat Cave, but that's another story entirely.
Yeah, about all you can do is, can't you put a repeater with an antenna on the roof?
I've got one.
Doesn't help.
It doesn't show on the phone.
Oh, geez, Louise.
So the phone doesn't notice it.
Correct.
Huh.
I don't know if it's not the right band or if there's something weird going on, because the repeater has a green light, which indicates that it's talking to the cell tower I pointed it to.
I'm afraid at that level, I just don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know, with all the flying I've been doing the last couple. All right, guys.
10-minute warning.
Yeah,
10-minute warning.
okay, got this, man. Hey, a question for Dave Forrest. Dave, you posted to chat. Oh gosh, it's been 45 minutes ago. A YouTube URL. Would you care to tell us what that YouTube URL was about?
That one was about the Linux Expo in Southern California when Dr. Paul Vixie did the keynote address, and he addressed the situation of the change in DNS that added the TLS connections. And very interesting. He says we're screwed, basically. I agree with him. But it's something or other people might find interesting. But it's about an hour and 20 minutes long. But he did a great job on that. He explained the reasons we were working on it. I would also say that I had taken pieces of that to that presentation I did last year on DNS wars, because the whole thing was about the wars that we're having with the DNS and the safety features and, you know, the different ways of anomalizing it, I guess I'll say. Anyway, it's an interesting link if you got an hour and a half or so.
I would appreciate it if you would also post that on the discuss list with a short description like you gave here, so that other people that did not attend tonight could see that. Like also any other URLs were posted tonight should be also posted on discuss.
Well, it's a year old now, basically.
Well, nothing wrong with the year old. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's not still true.
Well, I think you already have. Okay, I'll try to get that in there for you.
Okay. It's, you know, those here have seen the chat link. It's the people that are not here tonight might appreciate it. Thank you. Dead air, Gary.
Yep. Dave, Lee, Stan, anybody got any other tidbits to talk about in terms of DNS, IP, subdomains?
No, but just a reminder, 5 days from now, next Tuesday is the new LUG meeting.
Ah, okay. And let's see.
And I have information for the new LUG meeting.
Ah.
You'll have to wait and come to see.
Ah. Secret sauce.
Do you mean the new Linux meeting?
Newlinux.org, yes.
No, what is it? newlug.slug.org?
Newlinux.org.
You realize that with banding about newlinux.org, we probably have Red Hat and SUSE scared to death that there's a new distro coming on, right?
Stan, did you check new to linux.org?
Check what?
New to linux.org?
I couldn't spell that, so no.
It's just the number 2. between new and Linux.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I did not check that. No. There's so many different possibilities that I just got into checking a certain small set, and just that is what I've been looking at for the last couple of years. And,
new to Linux is available if anybody wants to donate it.
Sure.
How much did you pay for the new Linux.org?
$13.49, and the renewal is next year is going to be $15.99 with maybe some fee attached to that. I don't know.
Where'd you get it, Stan? We asked.
HUR, yeah, Hirsch.com. Yeah.
Okay. Because apparently they use 2cows also, which is where I have an account for all our domains.
Yeah. It was a spur of the moment. Well, I shouldn't say spur of the moment. Occasionally, routinely, I would check for these domains to see if they were free. And when I ran across this particular one, well, I tried, like I said, I tried to get newcomer.org, but they wanted $6,000 for that. And I didn't think that was a good idea.
Oh, wait a few years. Maybe it'll.
Yeah. Well, it's like the slack.org. I've been waiting for that for 15 years or better. And it went from one squatter to another. And right now, the newcomer.org is it looks like something in Las Vegas with a Slavic alphabet that hasn't changed in the last 2 years. Somebody's squatting on that, but they want $6,000 for that. So it's it's just been. I guess when you try something for so long, you just kind of grab something when you get an opportunity, without thinking too far ahead.
Yeah.
But I will have to change some of the narrative on my websites. Slightly, anyway.
Yeah, and in fact, depending on how important you want new Linux to be, we could change the base name to newlinux.slug.org and make all the others aliases.
I'd have to see that and write visually in order to understand what you just said, because my brain is starting to burn.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe we'll have to pull the plug here in a few minutes or whatever.
Okay.
It's a final call then for anyone who. Anybody have anything that's germane to our topic here of IP addresses, DNS, that kind of stuff? Otherwise, we'll step back and just let people ask general Q&A type questions if they want.
Here's a good quiz question. What happens if you do 192.168.1.0/25 instead of 24?
Ooh.
Are you talking about like a ping or a what?
No. That's he was talking about those CIDRs, right? Those classless inter-domain routing numbers, right? So normally, if you for example, if you typed in nmap 192.168.1.0/24, that would look for all the ports 0 or 1 to 1024 within your little local network there, right? But what happens if you replace /24 with /25? What do you think would happen?
I have no
It
idea.
kind of splits up that subdomain, I think.
Exactly right. It subtracts half of them. Which half?
The first half, I think.
You're right.
I don't know.
You're right. That's you'll get 0 to 127. And if you wanted the 127 to 255, then you'd have to do .1.128/25.
Yeah, I just watched a video recording from IT Pro TV on that the last 2 days. And I don't really understand what I've watched. But
No, it's just basically if you wanted to have a bunch of subnets within,
yeah,
you know, a
I know.
larger network or whatever,
I've
you could
been
have, you
trying
know,
to understand. Ed, I've been
25,
trying to.
26, 27, right?
Yes,
Those would
yes,
all
yes.
make,
I've been trying to understand subnets for the last 20 years and haven't got it yet. Right. So that's.
Ed, I've started serving my own local thing as a separate group of IP addresses, and it returns to my local place here. Everybody gets the IP addresses that is defined in my host file for DNS mask, and it works pretty good because if they ask for that one, it'll go to that site. But outside people don't get in there because it's all natted addresses, see, so there isn't any way for them to see it. So it's kind of an interesting idea. What happens if you put it in your regular DNS up in, let's say, somebody like Hurricane Electric or some other person? Well, that doesn't really work right. I mean, it just can't work right. You're going to get a natted address. So basically, it's just an interesting problem, but it works good for me because I use a lot of IPv6 internally. And that lets me tie together different locations with the same IP that isn't natted in between. So it's kind of a fun problem.
yeah, one day I think I'll get into that too. I've got a lot of domains here that I just have hard coded, and they're not domains, but SSH aliases that are hard coded. And I should really be doing it, but I haven't learned that part yet. So
But Ed, it's probably simpler to stick with your SSH config.
yeah, it is, unless every 2 years, right? The old ISPs start charging you double what they charged you the last time. So you got to switch. You got to go from AT&T to Comcast and then back to AT&T again. Every time they do that, it jumps from 192.168.1 to 10.0.0. whatever, right? And so, I just get tired of switching them all the time. So I've made backups, and I've got backups of both versions now. And that way, whenever they switch again in another year or so, year and a half, I guess.
Well, if I understand your problem, wouldn't the solution be to put your own router behind the modem?
Yeah, I could do that too. That's another thing I should look into. And I actually have one, so I could do that.
Yeah, I've done that for a number of clients. One of them, the router blew up, and they called the AT&T guy to fix it, and he just took it out of the circuit, so I didn't bother to replace it. They've only got two or three devices, including Alexa.
Yeah, it would be nice if I could have my own router, which was a Wi-Fi hotspot, and then turn off the Wi-Fi access point on the supplied router. So it's just Ethernet, and that way there wouldn't be two Wi-Fi signals here. But I don't know how to do that.
But you don't have to turn it off. Just put up your own and make sure you connect to it.
Right, but I didn't want anybody to connect to the other one, though.
Well, just throw away the password.
Yeah,
okay.
Just
I have a question related to that one. Can you have the ISP's router and then you have your router. And can you get the ISP's router to stop broadcasting its SID?
Probably not.
Then my next question is, because I have, and I
Just change it to FBI van.
to change it to what?
FBI van.
Change the SID?
Yeah.
But you can't. You know, the ISP won't let you into their router to change the config on a consumer account.
No, let me say.
They let me change mine, so I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, so I have what I'm talking about here. I have an AT&T router that it's a one box unit. It used to be a 2-wire system. I'm not sure what it is anymore. I can change its SID. You know, it's not called AT&T-2456. You know, it's like my street address. And then I have then I have just a plain old fashioned Linksys router whose SID is called Linker. My wireless cards see both of them. I've got 3 or 4 boxes in the house that connect to whatever. One box is running a really old copy of Mythbuntu, and it's the one I'm having trouble with. The rest, the laptop, the other boxes, when I lose power in the house, and then or one of the routers reboot, they're smart enough to go and reattach to the AT&T router. But for some reason, the Mythbuntu kind of says, "Oh, there's 2. I don't know what to do. Somebody please come here and click on one."
Okay.
Go into the config on that Mythbuntu and make sure that the one you don't want to use is not set to auto connect.
Oh, it's somewhere in its. Okay, walk me through that again, because like you go in there and it says shop for list of things to do, and I see the neighbors on either side of me and both of mine.
No, yeah. I don't have a laptop up with Wi-Fi, but in your network settings, when you go into the not the pick one, go into your Wi-Fi settings, and if you go to the gear next to the name of the SID, you'll see what password you've cached.
Yeah.
Just delete that password, or sometimes there's an auto connect option that'll prevent it from automatically trying to connect to the one you don't want it to connect, which means it should automatically connect to the one you do want it to connect to.
And actually, since you mentioned it, it's kind of stupid. I had an old laptop which doesn't exist anymore that refused to connect to the AT&T router. So I had to take the password off of the AT&T router. I live on an acre. The signal stops at my mailbox. If you're going to sniff my address, you have to park in my driveway.
Gosh.
So the AT&T router does not have a password. I don't remember if the Linker router has one or not. You know, it's not like we'll give. It's more like what you said. Figure out which one's selected for auto connect and delete that or remove it or whatever.
Right.
Or upgrade the old Mythbuntu to a new version of Mythbuntu, but it's kind of annoying. All the rest of them renegotiate to the correct router, and that one just sits there and stumbles and wait for you to come over and intervene manually.
Yeah, you may have to upgrade the card in if it's that old.
Most of them are. I have a laptop with a built-in NIC. Most of the rest of them are Think Centers with some kind of little USB stub as their NIC device, as their wireless NIC device.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything in the house wired.
Yeah. By the way, if it refuses to connect, it probably means the router is using WPA2 and your old device only supports WEP. I used to see that about 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, well, that laptop died, and I bought a new laptop, but I never did bother to go back and put a password on my Wi-Fi hotspot.
You probably should.
I should. Like I said, I live on an acre surrounded by 8 acres, and you know, you can't. It's like, you really do have to. When I walk, I have the power turned down real low. When I take my cell phone out to the mailbox to pick up the mail, the cell phone says connection dropped.
We're still recording.
Stanford, just think of it as plausible deniability in case the RIAA comes and says you were downloading movies or something like that. You can say, well, it might have been a neighbor or something.
Right.
Good point, Phil.
Still muted, Gary.
Dead air.
Well,
I
nobody's
heard
talking.
you say Ed Air.
No, dead air. Gary,
I didn't have it unmuted. I said, obviously Stanford thought that van with all the recording equipment kept parking in his driveway. He thought it was the FBI van. That's it. Hey, James had to cut out early, so he was running the beginning of the meeting, and I guess I've kind of taken over running the end of the meeting here. And I don't know if he did anything about the calendar. I'm sorry?
yes, he did.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he had the calendar up first.
Did he mention that a week from yesterday is the 30th anniversary? Happy birthday.
Why is Gary saying everything twice?
I don't, no. That was me. But yeah, I was hearing my own echo and I don't know why. Anyway, hopefully he mentioned that next Wednesday is the 30th anniversary of Linux. I hear crickets.
That would be what, 91?
Hope it goes for 100 more.
What,
at least.
What happened 31 years ago? The kernel 0.9 was released or what?
Let's see what it says here.
Maybe 1.0. I can't remember.
Or was that the day? That was the day that Linus put the message out on, what was it? Comp.os, the old mail group.
Yeah, I think it was comp.os.linux, right?
Well, that says July 3rd.
Oh, what? There was no Linux at that point.
No, I'm sorry. I meant to say Minix. Comp.os.minix.
Says here which one he was posting in, I think. Posted, it just says to a Usenet news group. I thought it had it in the article here of what it was posted to. You're probably right, though, Ed. Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, the exact thing, his exact post was, what would you like to see most in Linux? And at that point, people were still looking for some kind of a free Unix alternative. And Linux seemed to be the thing. And then Linus basically
what existed at that point? Did FreeBSD exist?
No, it did not. That didn't start till like 86 or something. Or I'm sorry, 96, I meant.
Wasn't BSD tied up in court at this time? That's why he decided to build his own.
Yeah, 386 BSD was getting sued by whoever owned the trademark, or rather the license for AT&T Unix. I don't know if that was Novell or SCO, but I think it might have been. It was AT&T was suing them? Okay.
Yeah, in those early days, when the battle was between AT&T and BSD, the underlying situation was the AT&T code was what BSD had started with, and then the federal government had given Berkeley a grant to expand on the BSD code. So the expansion was actually something that BSD technically had the copyright to, but since it was paid for with government money, it was open source. But you couldn't use the BSD expansion unless you already had the AT&T license code underneath it.
So what, I guess like version 0.2, okay, a couple weeks later. So what was the first Linux distro?
That's a good
Wasn't
question.
that Jaeger or whatever? I can't ever pronounce that
Oh,
one.
was it Yggdrasil? It wasn't Slackware. It was
Yeah, they were pretty close together. I don't remember which one was first.
I believe it was Jaeger Seal.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The one would start spelling with the Y. Jaeger Seal, the big tree.
Jaeger.
I think you're right.
Could you spell that, please?
No.
Why?
So that's why it died. It was too hard to pronounce.
That's right.
No,
And
I
can't.
think before that was Soft Landing Systems.
SLS Linux? Yeah, you could be right there too. Was that a full distro though? You could download, or not download, but get on floppies?
I think so. I could be wrong, but
My first one was I went to Comdex in Las Vegas, and Slackware had a booth there, and so I bought the box. They had like 56 floppy disks in there, so I brought them home and installed it. Took me forever.
Wow.
They were 3.5s though, right? Not 5
No,
and a quarters?
the ones I had. Wait a minute, were they 3.5s?
No,
They were 5 and a quarter or 3.5 now. You got me in that, Stan. I don't know.
They were the big ones. They were the big ones.
Yeah,
They were the big ones.
I think the original box was the 5 and a quarter. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
Hey,
why there were so
Stan.
many of them, because it would
Stan,
fit on like 10 3.5s.
yeah, the big ones were 8-inch.
Well, that's true. The big ones.
That's true. Yeah.
The really big ones, okay.
But no, the first one I got that had 3.5-inch, I was really proud of that. Was I got OS2 Warp from IBM, and those were on 3.5, and I thought, oh, cool, 3.5, a lot more stuff on there. There was 28 of those,
Warp
I think,
was a
or
version of
34.
Unix?
I can't remember, but something like
was
that.
OS2 an IBM OS, or was it a version of Unix?
No, it's a version of. It was a joint venture between Microsoft and IBM to create a replacement for MS-DOS, but it was a multi-processing system. OS2 Warp supposedly could run Win32 apps, but it was kind of iffy.
And it was on a XT, PC XT?
No, it ran on a AT or greater or bigger, PC or greater, or IBM PS2. I think it was originally designed for an IBM PS2, but I didn't have one of those. I just had a beige box that was a 3.6. OS2 Warp was still running, still pretty strong. Wow, even recently. Yeah.
So if 91 is Linux, when is FreeBSD?
I'm sorry, say that again.
If Linux was first in 91, then FreeBSD comes along in 93, 94?
Yeah, it was in there, 95, 96, somewhere in there.
Well, by 95, you get Windows 95.
Oh, I'm scrolling up to the calendar because I thought I saw something about a BSD release.
FreeBSD was released in 93.
Oh, okay.
It'll be easy. 1, 3, and 5. 91, 93, 95. Yeah. And so neither the 91 Linux, you tell me, the 91 Linux and the 93 FreeBSD had an X11 windowing system or not?
I don't think 91 Linux did. I don't know when X was ported to Linux. That you'd have to look that up. There was I think a version of it before the official X11 came along. X11.org came along. My memory is very confused on that point. Sorry. But no, it wasn't a GUI system. It was just a command line.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when Silicon Graphics decided to abandon their PostScript-based windowing system and window manager in favor of the standard X11.
Yeah, actually, it was Sun Microsystems that came up with an alternative. It was called NEWS, NEWS, stood for Network Enabled Windowing System.
Oh, that's right,
And,
news. Yeah.
And it was based on a thing called Display PostScript, which was basically your, that was kind of your beginning of your what you see is what you get. Whatever you saw on the screen, if you printed it, would be what you saw on the paper.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't. I think it was maybe too resource hungry or something. I don't know. I don't know why it didn't win.
I think some of it was just like standardization. It's like, why should we continue to develop this? Let's just, since X11 is open, let's just go grab the latest version of it and fold it into our next release.
But I mentioned something earlier. You could at that time go to ftp.mit.edu and download the source code for it. Oh, yeah. So you're right. It was open.
I'm going to jump topics completely here and just point out something totally different on the calendar, and that is what is that? 28th of this month, so Saturday of next week. The 1859 solar flare called a coronal mass discharge, a CME. It was also referred to as the Carrington event after the astronomers who.
That's the most powerful one that's ever been observed.
Yep, and the thing is in 1859, there was very little electronics, although this apparently did things like actually burned out some telegraph cables. But if you had a solar flare of this magnitude, coronal mass discharge of this magnitude, you would have all kinds of electronic equipment burnouts. And as we were just talking tonight about how important it was to be able to transfer your cell phone, there'd be a lot of cell towers that just would cease to function. A lot of internet routers which would be burned out. A lot of
satellites would probably be destroyed or go down. The GPS would be offline pretty much.
Yeah, the detail there on that calendar entry mentions that in 2013, the estimate of the cost of the damage of something the size of the Carrington event would be between $500 billion and $2.6 trillion. And I think it's fair to say that it would cause just massive economic and social disruption like we have no idea.
So when was the next biggest one after that one?
Good question. I don't know. They say that the Carrington events only happen about every 500 years, they think. But of course...
Next week.
Yeah. I mean, that's their estimate, but they didn't have the ability in astronomy to measure these things prior to the mid 1800s, and so we don't really know when the next one might happen.
Next week.
So who is our astronomer in the bunch? Because my question is going to be, when you have an event like that, is there any place to hide? If you're in the Earth's shadow, if it's night on your side of the Earth, are you protected from it?
No, because the nature of that coronal mass discharge, it's not the visible radiation. The problem is the charged particles which are coming off the sun.
And they electrify the entire troposphere.
And they'll follow the magnetic lines down. So normally, they would just land somewhere near the North Pole or the South Pole. The problem is when you have such a massive amount of them, they they keep bulging out. So they start to walk down from the poles. So most likely, I would guess the best place to be would be along the equator. But
Can you imagine how many satellites would be blown out?
mm-hmm.
Well,
Would
that's the
be
thing,
no
because
more.
most of the satellites
No-
are above the Earth orbit and they're not protected by the Earth.
Right.
No, no, that's not true, Stan. The Van Allen radiation belts extend out beyond most satellites. The only ones you really have to worry about are the
Synchronous.
geosynchronous ones that are about a tenth of the way to the moon, and so those are possibly in danger. That'd be
Would
like
there
a lot
be
of
any?
communication satellites.
Would there be any ozone layer left?
Well, I mean, we still had the ozone layer after the Carrington event. That wasn't an issue. It was just that uh, the electricity, got jammed up everywhere. There was a route to ground. Think of a lightning rod, basically just had lightning rods all over the Earth.
Say that again about the Van Allen belt. It's how far out?
The Van Allen radiation, there were actually multiple Van Allen radiation belts, right? So they were named after, oh God, I can't remember his first name now, but he was a NASA scientist, and he sent up US Navy sounding rockets back in the 1950s, and they discovered these radiation belts, several of them up there, and they're quite a ways out. Uh, I think some of them stretch nearly to the orbit of the moon, but not, they're not as strong there as they are closer to the Earth. But they follow the magnetic lines of the you know of the
Okay.
Earth's north and south magnetic poles.
Oh, the belts go from north to south, not around the equator.
Right. Yeah. If you imagine a bar magnet was like stretched across the poles, the north and south poles,
Yeah,
right?
and it's
And then you
called
had
the Van Allen belt, but they're really spheres or whatever. They're
they're spheres,
cage.
right? Yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's almost like a Faraday cage or a. But,
yeah, and
and
it pretty much protects us from the majority of the electrical radiation from the sun, and some of the cosmic radiation that we're getting from uh, outside the solar system and the galaxy itself.
and so
But
you're saying that that you have all the low Earth satellites, then a group of Van Allen belts, and then the geosynchronous satellites.
yeah, I think the geosynchronous are like kind of between like the
Between a
inner
couple of
belt and
Van
the
Allen
outer
belts.
belt or something like that.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly. I saw it a long, long time ago before I lost my sight. So, but if you look it up, Jim Rowe would be a good person to talk to about that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Says the Earth's two main belts extend from an altitude of about 640 to 58,000 kilometers,
Okay, right.
400 to 36,000 miles above the surface.
Yeah, and the
What was it,
geosynchronous
miles?
are at 22,000 miles. So,
Yeah.
so they're somewhere in there. They may be
I'm
somewhat
sorry, I was
protected,
talking over
but
you guys. The geosynchronous is about 22 or 23,000, and the Van Allen belts are where, Phil?
From 400 to 36,000 miles.
right. So
So it's outside
The
of
inner
both of
belt,
them.
the inner belt starts at 400, and apparently, I guess the outer belt ends somewhere around 36,000 miles.
right. So it's somewhere between there.
Oh, I see. 36,000, 400 miles, and then 36,000 miles, which is just barely beyond the 22,000 of the geosynchronous.
Right. But I think that the stronger protection would be on the inner belt, but that's just my guess. I don't know.
Do you get polarization? That has to if it has to fit between one belt's lined up this way and one belt's side. No,
yeah.
They're aligned with the magnetic axis.
Right. That's one of the problems with don't jump on that Elon Musk trip to Mars because Mars, they don't got none of them magnetic field lines because it's kind of a dead planet. So it cooled down a long time ago, and there's no longer any electrical dynamo in the core. So they don't have that. So if you're on Mars, yeah, be prepared to get sick from radiation poisoning.
Oh, plus how are you going to navigate without a magnetic north?
That's true too. I think they're planning to put GPS satellites up there, though. I guess they'd be like MPS satellites. Well, I know it'd probably be like APS, right, for Aries.
So back to Stanford's question about when was the second largest. There is some detail there in that calendar entry, and it mentions that in 2012 there was a coronal mass ejection of about something getting close to the same size as the Carrington event. The only thing is when it came off the sun, it didn't head towards the Earth. It headed sideways out of the solar system, and so we didn't really get hit badly by it. But the astronomers saw it happen, but it didn't hit us.
So you're saying the Mayans were right then?
Yeah, they may have.
The 2012
should have been in the wrong place.
Yeah, they just missed the angle of the sun. That's what was happening.
Yeah, it's just we in this year we're talking so much about viruses and pandemics and the possible end of civilization just due to some disaster like that, and we could have a disaster like a Carrington event that wouldn't. The actual event doesn't kill people, but if you think about it, the way we've now gotten so dependent in society on cell phones and internet and electric power, it would be a disaster if all of a sudden a lot of that stuff stopped working.
Well, it's similar to what would happen with an EMP, right? If they, exploded a nuke out in space, right? The EMP would, pretty much kill, actual components on the ground.
And just add autonomous vehicles to that equation.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, let's hope we learn some lessons and put some radiation hardened stuff in there. I was just watching about IBM, and IBM back in the 1960s actually got the contract from NASA to develop the Saturn V flight control computer. Yeah. And one of the reasons that they got the contract to do that was due to the fact that the IBM 360, right, did not use integrated circuits the way that we do today, with those dual inline package systems or whatever, right? They used a thing, I don't know what they were called. They were called SLTs for solid logic transistor, maybe? I can't remember what the T stood for. Oh, technology, solid logic technology. And they were in radiation hardened ceramic packs. And then each one had like this resin, right, that was stuck between the innards and the board itself. So you could put one of those on a Saturn V and shake the bejesus out of it and nothing would happen. And that's exactly what happened. So they that technology was well suited for the space program and the Apollo program.
I always wondered how come IBM had a very prominent part of that rocket. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I mean they also supplied the 360s for mission control or whatever that was, right? Yeah, and but the other companies got, Rockwell and some other companies got the other hardware, like the Apollo guidance computer, which was in the command module, and the LEM. Yeah. That was actually not IBM. That was no IBM technology was in there at all. But they still use some pretty cool gear.
Nice. Well, excellent. Well, I really should head off myself. Anybody got any final words?
When should I stop recording?
This was the Thursday, August the 19th, St. Louis Linux User Group Lug meeting. The topic tonight was DNS, IP numbers for use with subdomains, domains, and a whole bunch of networking type talks, and then including IP geolocation. And there wasn't any single speaker. Lee Lambert did a lot of the talking. Stan did a bunch of the talking. And
Ken Johnson?
Ken Johnson did a great segment on the IP geolocation, and also some other things. If I missed anybody else that I should credit with coming loaded,
Dave Forrest provided quite a bit.
yes, Dave. That's right. I did. I knew I was missing somebody. And this was all kind of based on Dave and Lee and Andrew St. Clair and Mike Knight carrying on conversations in the Discuss mailing list this week. So but anyway, with that, that was the end of the
Recording ending.
all right.
Anonymous Coward is still recording. Let me go shut it off.
Ready?